Welcome, everybody. All right, bring it back. So, one of my goals here is to help you see disruption ahead of the curve. So you can make decisions that help choose what business do you sell, what business do you buy, to keep yourself from being disrupted or to get the opportunity to transform your industry. And so there are examples in where this has happened, and I'd like to highlight that. And I'd love to bring on stage Randy Stanberry. Randy, where are you, pal? Come on up. There's some stairs right here in front. So, Randy, you're special to me in a number of different ways. Thanks, Peter. And let me give you a microphone right there, that handheld. So, Randy actually was the very first member ever to sign up for Abundance 360 when we did our first program back in 2012.
Awesome.
We're standing in the back of the audience. You go, I'd like to go to that. I said, okay, come on.
Yeah, it didn't take much.
So hold that close up. So what I'd like to do is show a video of an interaction you had with Jeff Holden, who runs, he's the chief product officer at Uber. And we were talking about autonomous cars and autonomous trucks. Let's go to that video. Let's start it with audio on. Randy, pal, you do own a trucking company.
I do, and I'm going to turn my fun meter down here.
How many trucks do you own, Randy?
Non-asset. So we are a freight broker, and that's the market that I think
gets disrupted.
That easily is disrupted.
For years. It's a part of the food chain that Randy can pivot to. That's going to rapidly grow.
The idea that being an owner of an asset that you deploy on the network and you get paid a revenue stream, I think is a pretty interesting model.
Yeah, and it makes sense to sell quickly before it's really devalued
sell high,
altogether and get into some autonomous asset.
Yeah.
And go scare the shit out of every truck owner and offer to buy it from them and then come back and make it autonomous and put it back into use.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So, Randy, that wasn't too long ago. What happened since then?
So as soon as I got back home after that event, after that conversation, literally 5 days later, I was talking to a mergers acquisition guy to get the business on the market. And within 9 months, September 11th was we actually got the business sold and move forward. So I totally realized that, thank you, totally realized that there's no possible way that this business is going to be around in 5 years, say, or at least it won't have the value that it has today. And knowing that I also was going to be into an earnout period of 1 to 2 years, I needed to move fairly quickly. So fortunately, the business was prepared and ready to sell anyway. We had the value we wanted to get, and we moved forward and got it done.
So, fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you. Peter. And there's a photo of you and I holding your signed agreement when you were at the SU program with A360 this summer. So congratulations for that. Thank you, Randy. And so the point here is you're going to see opportunities to transition to the next generation of technologies. And it's what you do with that, it's up to you. It's the actions you take during the 3 days here and when you go home that matter. Right? Tomorrow, I'll remind you of when I brought the Bitcoin ATMs here and gave all of you Bitcoin that you summarily threw away. Oops. All right. Let's continue on. Yeah, I'll help you find it. Believe me, it's on the blockchain someplace. Let's continue with our our tech demos. Our next tech demo is an application of AI that all of us must start using. Let's go ahead and roll video for HireVue.
We started with a mission to reimagine the hiring process, to make it fundamentally fairer, and we knew video was the way to do it. In those early years, we shipped webcams all over the world so candidates could interview from anywhere and get hired from anywhere. To increase diversity and reduce human bias in hiring, we've added artificial intelligence to make video interviewing even better. Now, every candidate gets the chance to interview, and the interviews are consistent, fair, and based on objective criteria. All organizations have to find great talent. HireVue is transforming the way companies discover, hire, and develop their most important asset, their people.
Please welcome to the stage Kevin Parker, the CEO of HireVue. Kevin. A pleasure. So listen, I'm really excited about using what you've built. I think today, right now, humans are still our most important asset. They may be algorithms in the future, but today they're people. And I consider myself not a great interviewer. Right? I know I say this publicly. When I interviewed Esther, who's my chief of staff, I didn't see how amazing she is, and it scares me that I didn't see it. And so I had other people like Connie advising me to go ahead and hire her, and I did, and it's like the best decision I ever made. So tell us, how do people start using HireVue? What's it cost? Talk about a process. And talk about your success stories.
Sure, and you know, as we sit here today, we've done 6 million interviews around the world in 32 languages, 180 countries, and we deliver that on-demand experience. But you're absolutely right. Humans are the worst part of the interviewing process, and resumes and our own personal biases enter into it in a way that is actually destructive. It has the illusion of validity, yet it actually doesn't work at the end of the day.
Our cognitive biases.
And our cognitive biases, and so HireVue really has taken and standardized the process. Every candidate gets the same experience, gets the same exact questions in the same exact order. And we've used all that data to create artificial intelligence models that can look for things like customer centricity, empathy, tenacity, creative thought in ways that really match up to the candidates you're trying to hire. And then we completely neutralize those algorithms for any bias that's in the process. So it creates a much fairer experience, a much more even experience, and all a customer has to do is call us. And you know, we're here at the show and glad to share some of the experience. So
quick, how many folks here think this would be useful to you? I mean, can I just, right? I think all of us, anybody who hires individuals. So, you know, to my team at XPRIZE, to my team in SU, I think this is an amazing asset. How much does it cost? As a service, how do you price it?
So it is a subscription service that's really based on the number of people you're trying to hire. Interview broadly, open the aperture as wide as you possibly can, and get as great a candidate experience as you possibly can. It can start out from as little as $30,000 to $50,000, and we have some customers today that are paying us more than $1 million a year because they're interviewing several 100,000 people a year today.
Wow. I mean, so in terms of experimenting with AI that can impact your job, you guys know that the right hire can make you and the wrong hire can break you. I mean, it is fundamental today. And so the ability to have this kind of capability, I know for me, that's really extremely valuable. So they can go to your booth. You have a booth here.
We do.
And they can go to your booth and you have information they can get and they can sign up and
great. And start the process, please.
So you've had one or two early adopter stories, if you would, or success stories.
So some great success stories. You know, one of the things that we look at is really the time to hire. And today, in today's environment, it takes the average company almost 60 days to get an offer out to somebody. Yeah, in today's environment, I think probably the most overused metaphor is this is a war for talent. It isn't a war, it's a race. And the fastest people are going to win that race. Hilton Hotels, for example, great case study, a great important customer of ours, has taken their hiring process from 6 weeks down to 6 days in some centers. Wow. You can take an video interview, that assessment is embedded right into it, that pre-hire assessment. You'll know within 20 minutes if that candidate's right for you. You can reach out to them tomorrow morning and get an in-person interview and get them a job offer by the end of the week. So real accelerant. We've turned this first in, first out, resume-based process into best in, first out.
Wow. Amazing. Kevin, thank you so much, pal. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Really great, huh? Awesome. Yes, Beth. The company is called HireVue, H-I-R-E-V-U-E, HireVue. They've got a booth in the back. Go try it. I mean, again, my goal here is for you guys to experiment with what we're showing you, right? Try and play it. It's the difference. If this couple of days is kicking back and being entertained, that's not the goal. The goal is for you to try things. And I've talked about this. Our cognitive biases affect us so we can't process the data coming into our brains. We're all eventually going to have an AI software shell that says that's a bias for you, or that's not true, or whatever the case might be, right? So this is a bias filter for hiring. All right. We're going to bring on stage next a dear and old friend of mine, Jim Margraf. You have seen him before on the stage. He was the CEO of iFluence that was sold to Google. It was the eye tracking software that's being used and embedded in a bunch of augmented and virtual reality software. He's here with a new company called Rival Theory. Let's roll video.
What if you could be instantly connected to the greatest influencers of our time? What if these people could become your personal coach, mentor, or confidant? How does the power of one become the power of all? Rival Theory is leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to scale the world's most valuable asset, you.
Jim, coming up, pal.
Hey, Peter. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Thanks.
So I'm super excited about this, but how does it work? How does it work? How does it work for me? How does it work for folks here? I mean, because it sounds pretty miraculous. So go into a little detail.
Sure. I think the starting point is, I've started a number of companies. I look for technology that's right on the leading edge where we can figure out ways to use it to help us learn, communicate, and grow. And when you look at AI, you just said a little while ago, AI is going to be, we'll have our own AI shells, ultimately, our own AI personas. So what we're creating is based upon Rival Theory's work for the last few years, where they created the #1 AI character engine for video games. So that means characters in a video game that work, that thought, that moved around, that were aware of their surroundings and their role. They had intent. So if you look at a master in the world, great example. I just came back from Tony Robbins' Business Mastery Seminar last night.
Right.
Anyone there, by the way? Okay. I know there's some Tony Robbins folks. Experts know what they do because they have patterns. They know how to think. They're aware of what they do. They've developed metacognition around what works for them. So what we're creating, if you saw from the video, is a means to let any person have access to any leader, whether that's a celebrity, a sports figure, an influencer, a coach, and they want to be able to talk to you at any time. Now, how can they do that? Well, are we going to create general AI? No. Okay? But what we can do is we can create a persona of you that has enough knowledge about what it is that you know in your domain space.
So I've written thousands of blogs, books. I have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of videos. So you're saying that your AI could digest that content?
We'll ingest that in addition. And this is the most important aspect of what was mentioned. It's about personality and relationship. So this is not a Turing test where we're going to try to see if someone can figure out something to ask you can't answer. Rather, what we do is we create a relationship between you and that person so that it's knowledge that you're imbuing, you're delivering to the individual, the user. They can pursue a content area they're interested in, which is your expertise, and that's the relationship you have with them. Now you think, basically our AIs think, remember, and care. They think because they're scanning the web, they're looking for information that's relevant to the user with whom they're working all the time. They remember information about the discussions they've had, and they care because the cognitive chain model we've developed that grew out of this emotional state starts with intent, desire, intent, a plan, action, that turns into something that allows a coach, a mentor, an expert to work with anyone.
Amazing. So if one of my Abundance Digital members wanted coaching, personal coaching from me on fundraising for their company or for how to digitize something, that digital version of me could sum in all of my previous experience, knowledge, teachings, and deliver it in a way that's caring to them.
That's correct. That's because
Awesome.
we can pull that out. And what happens then, by the way, as this expands, you have anybody in the world eventually will have their own AI. Once you have your own AI that can represent you as it grows in different roles, that AI brings back the knowledge that it collects in working with other people and other AIs eventually, but it brings it back to you, so you scale. So we take the world and we scale the world's knowledge and potential in ways that are exponential.
Awesome. So you've got a booth here.
Yes.
Guys, go check it out. For me, this is like this is the future that's going to blow you away, and you're hearing about it right here, right now. Jim Margraf, thank you so much,
Thanks
pal.
very much. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care.
Can't wait. Cannot wait. All right. Next, I'm going to bring on stage a triumvirate of three 3D printing gurus. To kick this off, allow me to bring on stage one of my dearest, closest friends, the man who is created the 3D printing digital manufacturing curriculum at Singularity University, the past CEO of 3D Systems, the CEO and chair of Exponential Works, Avi Reichenthal. Avi, please come on out. And once again, I'm glad you've got the proper uniform on.
Of course, I'm glad you changed for me.
Yeah, I did.
The sister didn't quite go.
So, Avi, Bree and I reached out to you and said, please bring the three hottest 3D printing companies here, and thank you, you've done that. Not only,
my pleasure.
Not only brought them, you brought their machines, you brought their CEOs. Let's kick off first with the first one, Signova. Let's watch the video and we'll chat about it.
Let's do.
With its state-of-the-art studio system designed as an end-to-end solution, Signova offers the only metal 3D printing system that is cost-effective for engineering teams. Up to 10 times cheaper than comparable laser-based systems, the studio system eliminated lasers and powders, making it safe for any. In addition to the distribution of industrial additive manufacturing equipment and professional desktop 3D printers, Signova is also developing and manufacturing 3D printers and ad hoc 3D printing materials with its own technology. With a decade of experience, Signova is at your service for your preparedness of the fourth industrial revolution.
Talk about this machine and what it can do, and Signova as a company.
Peter, we have here the first machine in the history of 3D printing that can print in plastic and metal, direct metal.
In the same print?
In the same machine.
Wow.
Without any changeovers, with a unique new filament that turns basically a polymer into a green part that's flexible, which then you stick in a furnace and you can make metal parts. Huh. It's significant because of the industrialization that comes from it, the democratization, and it's demonetizing in the sense that you have a $35,000 machine that can make all the parts that you need in plastics or metal in the here and now, which is a game changer for businesses.
So this can be, you can set up a company by buying one of these machines and produce your products.
This is the factory in a box.
Factory in a box.
Yeah,
it's here.
It's here. Come see it.
That's incredible.
It's here and it's now, and it's, I mean, when you think about other companies that are trying to manufacture in metal, this is the most effective and the most flexible system available today. And this is only the beginning in terms of material selection, speed, and scalability.
Amazing. Who do you have next with us? You have Maurizio from DWS.
Next we have DWS. DWS is a company that is industrializing 3D printing. We have here a fully automated 3D printer that can do everything, including the printing, the cleaning, the curing, to deliver a ready in your hand plastic part.
A final
A final part, and there is a second machine that they have, which is really, if you will, the democratization of digital dentistry. We have here the first chair-side dentist-friendly restoration device that in under 18 minutes can give you a 5-piece restoration that's ready to go in the mouth.
Wow.
And that is likely to be, and as you know, digital dentistry is billions of dollars in opportunity, and it's ready to be disrupted.
That's amazing. You know, the only problem is that's going to be disrupted by stem cells regrowing your mouth in a few years, but that's incredible.
Until then, there is a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. Shall we watch the DWS video and then bring up Maurizio? So let's watch the video, DWS.
3D printing has been a reality since the mid-1990s. What makes this technology unique is that it is based on additive manufacturing. It does not cut away existing material like a milling machine, but it builds new content from the bottom up. Very much in the forefront of this emerging technology since its very earliest days is Italy's DWS. The company provides a full range of machines, software, and the consumables that serve as the building medium. The quality of the final printout is the key differentiator for DWS. To this end, DWS offers the widest range of consumables in the stereolithography marketplace. 3D printing technology allows anyone to produce models and final versions of objects in just a few hours, with no tooling costs and no waste of material. DWS is working to empower anyone to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the fourth industrial revolution.
Please welcome to the stage Maurizio, the CEO.
Maurizio.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Peter.
Amazing what you guys have built. How old a company are you?
Well, we have about 25 years
in
this application. Yeah, we are one of the pioneers of 3D printing.
Of course.
Maurizio is one of the Chuck Halls.
Yes.
And for all the company builders in the room, he did it the old-fashioned way. He didn't raise a penny. The company became self-sufficient through its own revenue generation from day one. And he's taking it to the next level. And he's taking it to the next level. The guy has more than 265 patents.
Wow. Beautiful. An engineer and a CEO.
And a CEO,
yeah.
So which product are you most excited about?
Well, as we are trying to bring the 3D printing to the next stage, so to speed up it for real production, the field that is exciting me the most is regarding medical and life science. Yeah.
And it sounds beautiful what you've built to go in the dentist's office.
Yes.
And then we have one of our A360 members here who's a surgeon, has talked about his, in the middle of a surgical operation, realizing that he needs something special to hold a particular vessel. So you could actually, manufacture whatever product you need, even in the surgical suite.
Exactly. Actually, we are helping surgeons, or specifically dentistry, to assist them during their activities. But maybe the next stage will be more exciting. Yeah?
Guided and personalized, Peter, because you can go now very quickly from intraoral scanning,
yes,
nearly in real time, into guided procedures. And of course, in the case of Maurizio, the ultimate restoration, with all the required FDA clearances, both for temporaries and in the next few months for permanents, with biocompatible materials, with zirconia-like materials.
Instead of waiting for a week or 2 weeks to get, and having a temporary that can break.
And by the way, with color matching in your mouth, which is not possible today with the milling alternatives.
Or bright pink, if you prefer.
If you like, yeah.
Wow, Maurizio, thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure.
Excited to come and actually come and see your technology. And I hope you guys will go and see. I know we actually have some friends of mine in the room here who are in the dentistry industry, so fantastic.
Thanks.
A real pleasure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next one is another rock star company. You talked about it last year. You brought it here this year.
Well, it's really interesting that one of the missing links in additive manufacturing is how do you make the parts functional, how do you electrify geometries, how do you print antennas and encapsulate sensors and create fully functional parts. This company, Nano Dimension, is pioneering the ability to print all of that and more actual printed circuit boards. We talked about them last year as a concept. They just launched their first machine in Germany a couple of months ago, and it was an award-winning innovation. And we have a real machine here and many examples of how you can electrify additive manufacturing.
Talk about rapidly iterating circuit designs. That's extraordinary. Let's roll the video for Nano Dimension. Please welcome to the stage Simon Fried, the president of Nano Dimensions. Simon.
Right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're a dream for every technology geek out there, for every experimentalist, for every entrepreneur who's doing circuit design and building electronics. A chance to rapidly iterate makes things cheaper, better, faster. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Avi?
Simon, what's the big deal about electrifying additive?
Well, it's big in two ways. So the geeks that you were mentioning are certainly reaching out to us and seeing a quicker, easier, more secret way of doing what they can currently do. But a little bit like what happened when we discovered that the world wasn't actually flat. There's something similar happening as a result of this technology in electronics, where electronics today is flat unless you've got cables, harnesses, wiring, which is heavy, takes space. And with the advent of 3D printing of electronics, which can be combined with 3D printing of structures and shapes, get rid of connectors, get componentry inside your features. It means that a little bit in the spirit of abundance, you can get abundance of electronics. You can get your electronics into places it couldn't go before. It can get smaller, it can get lighter, and it can go places that these geeks haven't even dreamt of going.
Amazing. And I'm just, on our road to nanotechnology, this is a big step forward.
Absolutely. The technology is very similar to what you would see in nanotechnologies, and the ability to miniaturize functionality in circuitry, to stack it, to pack it, allows you amplification of processability and utility in ways that really we haven't even begun to fully comprehend. And then integrating it into geometries gives you functionality in all the fields that we talked about, drones and robotics and factory automation and consumer electronics.
Simon, what's the cost of your machine today, and what do you project it, and then what's the cost of actually printing a board?
So the cost of the machine is, well, you'd have to give up on your mid-range Lamborghini, probably, which is, I think, worthwhile, because that can only take you so far.
Sure.
This can take you further.
Yes.
Perhaps not at the same speed. But yeah, we did get stuck on the carpet, for example. But what it enables you to do is essentially, take that, and if you're creating complex parts in line with traditional manufacturing, it's not going to scale to multi-million unit. But if you're looking for complexity, or if you're looking to use 3D printing in its optimal way, which is make things where there is no alternative, where there is no price comparison, because the solution is what you need.
And to actually do a print of a board, what's incremental cost for that, you think?
So it's a 3D printing story. So you have a flat cost per part, And if it's a small part, you'll print it quickly and relatively cheaply. As the complexity goes up, you might have 50 or 60 different process steps in traditional manufacturing, whereas our process step would be click print.
Yeah, the amazing part about the cost here is that it doesn't matter how complex the circuit is, it will cost you the same, and you will have it in your hands in hours and days instead of weeks and months if you go to a traditional print board house and try to get it. So it's really a game changer in design and manufacturing. Peter, before we run out of time,
yes,
I want to give a shout out to George Votis, who is a member in good standing here.
Yes. And also the XPRIZE Innovation Board.
And because Techniplus, his company, created this open innovation program that brought all these 3D printing companies and generative companies together to really change the automotive industry, but in the process to help each other transform additive manufacturing as we know it.
If you get a chance to speak with George, where's George in the audience here?
He's right there.
George in the back there, and Avi, you'll be with us for these 3 days?
Yes.
Get a second and talk about how the two of them transformed George's sort of previously old school automotive parts company to a leading edge company, completely transforming it and really making it on the cutting edge. So it's an amazing story. Simon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Peter, thank you.
Thank you, Avi.
See you later. Thanks, guys.
All right, our last tech demo before we go to our Future of Work session. Allow me to bring on to stage another dear, dear friend of mine, the CEO of Viome, the chairman of Moon Express, an innovation board member, and a board of directors member, a board of trustees member of the XPRIZE Foundation, Naveen Jain. Naveen. You want to show your video or you want to talk? You want to? Let's show your video and then we'll go from there.
At Viome, we understand that our genes are not our destiny. In fact, recent research has showed that these microorganisms, collectively known as a microbiome, is responsible for a wide range of chronic illness, such as Parkinson's, autoimmune diseases, and even cancer. Each one of us have a completely unique microbiome. This is why there is no such thing as universal healthy diet. Viome was built on a technology originally developed for national security at the Los Alamos National Lab. We acquired this exclusive license so that we can get deep insights into the functioning of human body. We offer easy-to-use kit that allows us to analyze all the microbial activity, gene expression, metabolic information. In fact, our artificial intelligence technologies is developed to make sense of this complex biological data. We provide our customers with simple, personalized food and nutrient recommendations. I hope you will join me in this revolution to take back control of our own health and live a disease-free life. Thank you.
Amazing. So, Naveen, the story is pretty amazing that you went out and you negotiated the rights to the Defense Department's technology that they commercialized. In case it was ever a biologic attack, the Defense Department would be able to know what was the organism.
Yeah.
And so it's, you took that technology, you were able to actually look at what's the organism in our bodies.
Well, more than that, I mean, ultimately, think about what they were trying to do. The Defense Department was trying to find out if a bad actor were to ever get hold of something biological, how would they know what is making us sick? So they spent a couple of $1 billion developing this technology that can look at every single thing that's going inside your body to find out what's making you sick. And I thought, what if we can take that technology and keep people healthy? And that's exactly what we did. And the amazing thing is we launched the company only 4 months ago, and we have 10,000 people already signed up. And amazing thing is every single person who signs up not only gets better, because as I was saying that every single chronic disease, it doesn't matter what it is, whether you name them Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, obesity, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, even cancer is caused by our body, the microbiome imbalance. So these organisms that are in our gut are really so powerful that you should imagine they are the puppet master that are pulling all the strings in our body. They control all of our gene expression. In fact, if you look at we as humans, Peter, we may think we are so proud of ourselves, Our DNA only produces 19,000 genes, and the microbes in our gut are producing 2 million genes. Think about that. We are 99% microbial, less than 1% human. We are walking, talking ecosystem. So if there is any doubt what's happening inside your body, it's not us, it's them, right? And them is what we need to be taking care of. And I can tell you, I think I got 30 seconds, I'll tell you a really bizarre story. I think I know how humans were created, Peter.
You do?
Yeah. So I think, the bacterial organism has been around for billions of years. The humans are, give or take, a couple of 100,000 years old. I believe here's what happened. There was all these bacteria and viruses got together and said, we should take over the world. And they all looked at each other, how should we do that? He said, imagine if we can create something that's going to carry us around. All we have to do is keep this thing healthy, and they're going to run around feeding us all the time. Right? They're going to spread, and they're going to go everywhere. They're going to poop everywhere, and we're going to spread everywhere. We're going to take over the world, and they created humans.
This is the New Testament according to Naveen. So Naveen, very proud that Bold Capital Partners is an investor alongside Vinod Khosla, one of the top venture investors. And you have a booth here?
Yeah, we do. And actually, one of the things we're doing is we're giving it $50 off. So, we normally never discount because we're selling it at cost for ourselves. One of the things we're trying to do is honestly trying to make sure that humanity can live with a disease-free life. All chronic diseases start in your gut, and we want to fix that. One of the things is for us to be able to get there, we need about 1 to 2 million people who have actually taken the test. We understand everything, so artificial intelligence has all the data. So in fact, it used to cost $10,000 to do this test. We launched it at $1,000 4 months ago, and we reduced the price down to now $399, and you can get that for $349. So what I'm asking you is please join me, and you can go sign up today. You will feel better. And our friend Dave Asprey is here. All of his Bulletproof friends who I'm investor in are also signing up. And as I said, 10,000 people have signed up. I had 1 more minute, brother.
No. Thank you, Naveen.
Love you.
Love you too. By the way, Naveen and Dave Asprey are going to be doing one of our sunrise breakfast sessions on biohacking. And with that in mind, please welcome onto the stage Dave Asprey. Dave, a pleasure, pal.
Pleasure.
Tell us what's new at Bulletproof. And I love the upgrade t-shirt here. Yeah.
Upgraded. Here's what's new. Bulletproof started out as a blog to share my own transformation where I lost 100 pounds. My brain wasn't working. I spent now more than $1 million upgrading myself, getting the data, seeing what works, and realized that it's all, what you put on your plate is all about how it makes you feel. It's not about how cheap it is. It's not about how good it tastes, although it's nice if it tastes good too. I said, I'm going to make food I want to eat so I don't weigh 300 pounds and I feel good and I never have food cravings again. And it's turned out to be disruptive in food because what's the food do for you is what you care about. It changes the way you think about it, but it changes the way you feel, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you perform.
Awesome. By the way, Tom Bilyeu, who's with us, who is backstage running our digital backstage, obviously the creator of Quest Nutrition, same personal mission. Have you guys met before?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic, great. Well, thank you once again for being here. We're going to be hearing from you in our Sunrise Breakfast. We've got Bulletproof Labs. I love the fact that it's just a couple of blocks from my home, which I greatly appreciate. Anyway, thank you for your time here.
Thanks. And Peter, before I go, I got to thank you. I met Naveen. I've made many dear friends here. Naveen's an investor. I'm an investor and advisor to Viome. And you've introduced me to so many people who changed the world. It's my 4th year here. I'm looking forward to 21 more at least. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. And now it's time for a musical interlude. Please welcome Kiev Morales, a local high school violinist. Kiev. That was beautiful. So awesome. It makes you remember what's important. All the technology, all the talk of AI and robots, right? I mean, seriously. And you feel and hear that human expression, and that touches your heart and your soul. So as we figure out over the next, decades ahead, what does it truly mean to be human? And what can an AI robot do? We're going to be exploring that space. But for right now, that means human to me. All right. We're into a really important part of this session. And let me preface it by saying, I'm a consummate optimist about the future. And one of the things that I am concerned about is the impact of technology and the loss of jobs. It's not a concern about whether we're going to have enough money to eat, but it's the impact on society. And it was an evening about a year ago, I was having cocktails with Tony, and he doesn't drink. It was a Myers cocktail and an IV. And we started this conversation, and it turns out that this is an area that Tony's very concerned about. So please welcome to the stage, live via hologram, Tony Robbins.
Nice to see you guys. How you doing, Peter?
I'm going to do it, buddy. Good to see you, and I appreciate you're down in Florida. You just finished one of your programs there today.
Yes, we were doing business mastery down here. We had about 2,500 business leaders from about 67 countries. We're translating 4 languages simultaneously. So fun experience, and one where tech is a boon for business owners. But as you and I know, tech may not be a boon in the short term for society. For the long term, it certainly will be. But for a portion of society, that's the part I'm concerned about.
Yeah. So as we were discussing over a Myers cocktail a year from now, this is something that is of concern for both of us. And just to share the agreement we had, we said we're going to open up A360 every year, next year with you here personally, and hopefully from then on. And we're going to actually have the first part of this be a global town hall on a conversation on the future of work. So.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely critical. I'm really grateful that you put the team together here because I think, all of us in business, we've got all these great advantages. And if you look at it today, labor is one of the least resources. Really, technology is the resource that gives you that competitive advantage, allows you to scale, allows you to do so many things. And yet, we all know in our souls, if you're in a room like this, that we have to be more conscious than just ourselves. That business really is a spiritual game. In other words, how do you win in business? You do more for others than anybody else is doing in your category. You add more value. But to add that value, we also have to see the invisible impact of the things that we're doing. And that invisible impact is the disruption to the general population's lives. And so, we've all read the studies. I'm sure all of you read the studies by Oxford and all the different groups that are showing us between 35 and 55% of all jobs are at risk. They'll be destroyed, supposedly, by AI, by robotics, by these various automations and technologies. And yet, and it's over the next, 15 years, depending on which study you particularly read. But the challenge is, you got to decide what your point of view is. And you and I are both very optimistic. So optimistic view says, hey, we're just going to generate more jobs than we ever have. Technology always disrupts, but it always creates new jobs. And I would agree with that. But that's over a period of time. And the argument usually given is, look, we were an agrarian society. And, 150 years ago in the 1800s, 85% of us were farmers, so now 3% of us are, and we feed the whole world. But what people are leaving out is that happened over a century and a half. I was just with President Obama, and I was saying, I think this is one of the single most important issues we're facing. Everyone talks about income, distribution and the wide gap and what it's doing to society and the risk it puts us at. But I said, it's happening more by technology than by anything else. And I said, so what are you doing in this area? Here's the man who was the most powerful man in the world for 8 years. And he said, Tony, I agree with you. He said, but I brought the best experts in, and none have given me any real answers other than, universal basic income. And I said, well, who do I go talk to? He couldn't even tell me who to talk to. So I think we, together with all the people we know, the leaders in business, maybe some of the living presidents, need to bring this together and figure out a solution, because the other point of view is that the disruption is going to happen so rapidly. And when I talked to President Obama, he was saying that, you know, most people are telling me this is a 20-year issue, so we can deal with it. But if you looked at 2 weeks ago at CES, you saw Toyota announcing in 2 years, they've already got Pizza Hut, they already got Amazon on board, they're making these cars, and they're all going to have delivery services that are set up 2 years from now. And then this last week, we just saw General Motors announce, to beat them in the war, we're going to have those cars next year, 2019, on the road, providing services. They have no steering wheels. They have no accelerators. So there's 5 million jobs just in Uber drivers in the United States, taxi drivers, and truck drivers, just in the US. We've got about 4 million people that you and I both know are going to disrupt it in the farming industry just by some of the technology we have. That's 9 million people. There were 7 million people disrupting the United States during the world that went through. So those are only 2 jobs. So I argue that universal basic income, I think it's going to have to be part of the solution. I wouldn't disagree with that. But the challenge is, when you really look at what it does, there is an experience of having people having a base where maybe they're less stressed, where they feel their basic needs are met. But then there's a psychological, emotional need. And when you talk about what shapes our world, it's invisible forces, it's radiation, it's gravity, and it's human emotion. And human emotion is primitive. And when people feel like they don't have meaning in their life, there's a real challenge. I'm real excited that you've brought in today Natalie, and that next year we're going to bring in perhaps some of the living presidents along with some real leaders in this area to have this discussion. And I'm excited to start it with you today.
Thank you, Pal. And let me just, what Tony wants to do is actually bring in all the living presidents and have this conversation as a global town hall next year, because it's that important to him and to me. And so we're going to take a great shot at doing that. But let me bring, this is an hour today in future A360s. We want to really blow this out. It'll probably be a half day the first morning of A360. We wanted to bring out an expert who has been thinking about this for some time. And it's a pleasure to bring onto the stage Natalie Foster. She is the co-founder of the Economic Security Project Fund. She has been thinking about this at the Aspen Institute, and she is just given birth 2 weeks ago. And so we're so happy to have Natalie. 2 months ago, okay, 2 months ago. But thank you, Natalie, for coming on out.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Please, so this conversation, Tony and Natalie and all of you, is really around 2 elements. Number one, do you believe it's a problem? And you may or may not. And 2, if it is, what do we do about it? Right? So I'd like to do a couple of things real quick before we go into a general conversation. 1, I want to take a poll. And so, and 2, I want to show you 4 short videos of some world leaders and their opinions about whether this is a problem or not. So if you can go back to your app, pull out your digital device, and let's go to the question. Can we get that up on one of the slides here? Let's see. All right, so here it is. It's on your app. It says, how concerned are you about the technological unemployment? Number 1, I am very concerned. Number 2, it's concerning in the near future, but we're going to resolve it in the next 20 years. Number 3, number 2, it's a bit concerning, but we'll figure it out. Number 3, it's concerning in the near term, but will be resolved in the next 20 years. And number 4, not concerned. Ray's opinion is it's not an issue, so I agree with Ray. So where are we here? We're going to take a poll now and take a poll at the end. So we've got 40% coming at very concerned. Some optimists here at 28% that we'll figure it out, and 26% that it's going to be a problem in the next 20 years. Okay. So what I'd like to do is show 4 short videos. If I can pop those up on the screen one at a time. And we're going to... So can we show, thank you. So we've got 4 short videos we're going to show here. I went out to 4 individuals and captured one of them. So Kai-Fu Lee. Kai-Fu is the CEO of Sinovations in China. He is investing $2 billion in AI and robotics. I'm very proud. He's an investor in Planetary Resources, an amazing visionary friend of Ray's. Let's hear what his view is from China.
Hi, I'm Ray Kurzweil. I'm concerned that there's a perception
that's not
of job loss, and indeed there will be jobs.
All right, we'll start with Ray.
Hi, I'm Kai-Fu Lee, the CEO of Sinovation Ventures in China. We do investment in AI. I believe the job market is going to be one of the major issues that will be the result of AI. While artificial intelligence will create a lot of value, it will also replace a lot of jobs. And I think we should be thinking about what are the kinds of jobs that we will be able and happy and uniquely be able to do without having to worry about artificial intelligence replacing the jobs that we have. Some examples of those jobs include, one is the jobs of creativity, that of creating science and engineering and new ideas, but also creation of new storytelling, new entertainment solutions and things like that. Those jobs cannot be taken by AI. The other type of job that cannot be taken by AI is the jobs that really show love and empathy and really shows that we care about people, because machines are really just cold.
Let's go to the United Emirates with Omar Al-Olama. He's a friend of mine. He's just been made the Minister of AI. So the UAE has a Minister of AI. Wouldn't that be cool if the US had a Minister of AI? Let's hear Omar's point of view from the UAE.
Hello, my name is Omar Al-Olama. I'm the Minister of Artificial Intelligence at the government of the United Arab Emirates. With regards to automation and artificial intelligence taking jobs, my personal point of view is that on the long term I tend to be optimistic. If we look at, for example, unemployment rates in the United States from the beginning of the 1900s to 2015, it's more or less around 5%. There has been peaks, so it has gone up to 20%, for example, in years. But we as humans tend to be reactive. We tend to be more or less able to adopt and able to change with the times and do what is required to be done. Now, the challenge would be on governments actually reacting to these changes and being able to find solutions in the short and medium term. I think that we will see a little bumps on the road, and I think that there will be some challenges that we need to overcome. I do believe that artificial intelligence on the long run is going to have a lot of positive impact and going to unlock many opportunities as well for all of us. Now, what we need to do is come together and find the best way for us to move forward. Another example just of why we need to even think of the positives is that many jobs that we have today do not have a basis in the economy. They were created from the needs of people. So for example, social media influencers, social media platform managers were all created after there was a need for people to connect using the internet and for them to be together and to have more or less a common voice. I think that more of these jobs will come up. Artificial intelligence will alleviate us from the repetitive jobs and give us the capability to be more creative, to spend more time on things that really have value and have meaning. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right, I'd like to go to Ray next and then to close out with Elon's point of view.
Hi, I'm Ray Kurzweil. I'm concerned that there's a perception of job loss. And indeed, there will be jobs lost, but that's not a new story. I mean, that goes back 200 years. How many jobs circa 1900 exist today? So automation technology is constantly replacing jobs. We have better perception of that now, better knowledge of the jobs going away. We've nonetheless managed to create more jobs than we're eliminating, but we haven't even invented them yet. So if I were to tell a 1900 audience, oh, don't worry, yes, the 28% of the workforce now working on farms is going to be 2% in 100 years, but you'll get jobs creating websites and apps for mobile devices and doing data analytics. Nobody would have an idea what I'm talking about, and that remains the case. I'm confident that the situation will remain economically sound. In fact, it's going to get better. We're going to, I think, within a decade, have the means of providing a very high standard of living for physical things for all of humanity.
And finally, this is a clip from Elon with His Excellency Mohammed Al-Gargawi in Dubai at the World Government Summit a few months ago.
What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary.
So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe.
Yeah.
Because there is no job, machine, robot is taking over.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. Okay. That's simply and I want to be clear that these are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And if my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now, the output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap. The harder challenge, much harder challenge, is how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment. So if you don't have, if you're not needed, if there's not a need for your labor, how do you, what's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless? That's a much harder problem to deal with.
So, Natalie, you've been thinking about this for a while. You, Tony, and I have had some prep conversation on this. And I think our conversation here with the audience today, we're going to turn it to Q&A with you, is really around, if you believe it's a problem, what are the solutions? So talk about this. You, more than anybody I know, has gone down deep in this. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's not hard to agree with Ray and still be concerned.
Yeah.
I think it is absolutely true we'll be creating new types of work. The problem is they won't pay well. They won't be good jobs in the beginning, like they rarely are. In the beginning of the industrial age, factory jobs were bad jobs. Children worked in factories. You know, they would burn up. There were no workplace safety standards. And it was through a lot of struggle and bloodshed that our country came to a place where we said, no, these are the rules of work. We're going to work 40 hours a week. We're going to pay overtime. We are going to have a minimum wage. Children don't belong in factories. The things that we believe to be the bedrock of work today were decisions that we made 100 years ago. And I think one of the problems is that no one outside of rooms like this are really taking on the question of what the next social contract will be. If work looks fundamentally different, where it's no longer I have one employee with a pension, and you know, I retire, I've had that paid into my Social Security accounts and my retirement accounts, and I have paid time off. If that is something that fewer and fewer people will have, but yet that is the only vehicle for our safety net through employers. For a very long time, that was the only way we had health insurance, right? Until very recently, one of the big changes under the last administration was the ability to get health insurance no matter how you worked. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's very important we figure out what the social contract looks like for this new era of work. Where
are you concerned about the social impact of rapid unemployment in the next 20 years? Where do you come out in that spectrum?
Absolutely. I think you just have to look at the iconic example of truck driving. Yeah. In 29 states, the biggest occupation is driving a truck. There are over 4 million drivers, bus drivers, taxi drivers, and 3.3 million truck drivers in the United States. And I'm sure you've had a number of AV companies out here talking about, their technology. There are 42 permits in California alone to be testing autonomous vehicles on California roads, much less what's happening in Arizona and Pennsylvania with Waymo and Uber and other experiments. So it's coming very fast, and we're not prepared for it at all. And I will say a lot of those states will worsen the geographic and racial insecurities that we already have in this country when those are the jobs eliminated first.
And Tony, when you were talking with President Obama, it was just a couple months ago, I believe, right? It was within the last few months. I think one of the things that you told me was you were blown away that this isn't an ongoing sort of conversation in the administration, right? And I mean, is that your experience as well?
Well, in my experience, this was a huge issue in the election, but not in the way we're talking about it. In this election, we promised, in fact, the opposite.
Yeah.
We said we will bring jobs back to America. They will be manufacturing jobs. It will look like it did 40 or 50 years ago.
Coal plant jobs.
It was the exact opposite of what we in this room know is going to happen. And so I think it's not only that we're not talking about it, it's that, frankly, we're lying to the American people.
Tony, what are your questions for Natalie, thoughts?
First of all, I think that, Natalie, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think we're going to go through stages. And I think the long term, I couldn't agree more with Ray, and I think all of us probably would. But the stages are, there's going to be this first stage, the first real AI technologies that disrupt jobs massively. Why are you going to hire a truck driver who can only work 8 hours a day, who can be pretty demanding and needs health care, when I can now buy an asset that depreciates and I can have it running 24 hours a day and it's really effective? And the conversation with President Obama, conversations had with a variety of leaders, they still think 20 years in the future. And the point is, this particular technology is certainly going to happen in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And the disruption is going to happen faster than we're prepared for. So we can talk about UBI all we want. There's nothing in place to deal with that. And there's no one warning these individuals, your job is going to go away. We got to retool you now. The government isn't doing anything to educate them or provide resources or direction. I believe that first phase that we've got to deal with, and self-driving cars is certainly one of them, the farming industry is another. There's about a half dozen industries that are going to get a hit that quick. And without preparation, look, losers react, leaders anticipate. We're leaders. And as business owners and as people that care about our community, I think we've got to get much more aggressive in figuring out what those solutions are now and waking people up to the fact that, hey, maybe you're right, maybe it'll all be fine, but if you're wrong, the level of consequence to society is extreme. As Natalie just said, I mean, we've already got enough conflict in our society that we've probably had in a very long time, and people communicate it much more vocally and intensely. I think it's something that's got to be dealt with. And Natalie, do you agree about the stages? There's stage 1 and there's stage 2, maybe where universal income shows up, and then there's stage 3 of dealing with meaning for people, because we all know people that most of us in this room have earned our wealth. So we have an appreciation of life, we're productive, you can turn us off. But the people, that I often deal with, let's say a segment of society of people that have, been, born into wealth, those individuals have unbelievable guilt, frustration. They're trying to find any kind of meaning. They have no problem with money, but they have lots of problems. But they're not as aggressive. They've not grown up in an environment where you fought for everything. When the people who have had that occur to them feel like social contract is broken, but I'm willing to work my ass off, but I don't have a job, that's when we have a real challenge. So I'm not being alarmist. I just think we need to be smart and we need to take action now. And if we're wrong and it's all smooth, no one's hurt. But if we're wrong and we just sit on our asses assuming it's all going to be worked out by somebody else, I think we're going to find some fabric of society torn a bit.
Well, and I think that's where it's not a future of work conversation, it's a present of work conversation. We did some studies that show that if you make above 150K, it's true that purpose is the primary driver for your job. If you make below 150K, the biggest thing people wanted was stability. And they would take that over something that provided purpose, that they wanted the stability of income to know that they would be able to take care of a family, pay the bills. And that was actually surprising to a lot of people on the team, many of whom live in that other world. And so I think it's important to realize that today's wages, with today's level of technology, already have that problem that will be exacerbated in the future.
So first of all, on your
I think there's another point to that. I'm sorry. Which is when people start to have income, then they all of a sudden want more, right? There's something else they want. And so the human emotions are primitive. And in the environment where someone has maybe not developed themselves or been demanded to develop themselves because they've been able to work independently, like a truck driver, there's a different set of emotions that can happen to those individuals. I think that's a place that we got to be prepared, because once that universal income is there, it won't be enough. It'll be the first step, and a critical step, I agree.
So two things. Number one, on your app, please, we have the Slido sections up here. Give your comments. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, if you want to contribute to the conversation, please go ahead and enter that in, because we're gonna move very momentarily into a conversation with the audience here. Number two, we need to separate, and Elon made this point, and Tony, you and I have made this point, and Natalie, you've had this conversation. Let's separate job as a revenue-generating device, because we're doing two things. I think we will move towards a UBI. The experiments are all proving out fairly positive. You've been doing some amazing work in understanding that whole arena. The second is we're demonetizing everything, right? An electric autonomous Uber is 10 times cheaper than owning a car. So all of a sudden, the money that you do have, you can get the same level of capabilities for less money. Your house can be 3D printed. Electricity is going from 5 cents a kilowatt hour down to 1 cent a kilowatt hour over and over and over again. But when someone, my sister is a great anesthesiologist living in Greece right now. Medical school, she did much better in medical school than I did. I guarantee you, an AI and a robot's going to be a better anesthesiologist than any human physician will. Right? Our surgeons in the future will become robotic surgeons. So when I lose my job, I don't care if I'm not protected. Our identities are so wrapped up. Tony, you said something when we spoke about this last, which is it's changing the story. Can you speak to that?
I think, we all have a story of what our life is about. People have an expectation. When people are happy, life matches their expectations. It's kind of fitting in with how they expect to be. When the story of how they thought life's supposed to be doesn't match their life, their match doesn't match the story, then you see this upset in people. And I think we have a story of society of what you do, the path you're supposed to take, which includes obviously work, in order to have meaning and impact, and for you to have resources and a sense of earning. And I think that the biggest challenge that we have to do is come up with a new story of what life looks like that we can start to build together and begin to build. Some of that is going to evolve, some of it we can't possibly anticipate. But I think if we can help people, because think about where people, it comes number one from expectations not being met. And when the social fabric expectations, which are very deep inside from the stories that people were brought up with, are ripped from them, the level of uncertainty, the level of feeling insignificant makes people react in ways, some people that are pretty destructive. So I think that's why we want to take a look at this. And the poll you gave is a great poll, and listening to all the people, but they're all people in elite positions. We're asking elite people, how do you feel about the future? And of course we all think it's going to be great because we know how to master and use that. You should be asking that to a truck driver that says, if you know your job's going to be in 5 years, how do you feel about the future? What are you going to do? That's who we should be talking to, because those are the individuals going to be impacted by this.
And we talked about next year when you're physically here, and we're going to bring, we'll bring the heads of some of the unions, we'll bring some of the truck drivers, we'll bring some international representation. We should really have that conversation. Natalie, I'd like to ask you a question, and then I want to start inviting members to go to the microphones. What do we do? In other words, what are the ideas that people, if we have, we saw DeepMind's latest Go program, right? Go 100 to 0 against the past version by just writing better algorithms. And so we're going to start to have, I'm seeing this year, I didn't include it in my proof for living, but AI's writing symphonies that are winning awards, writing plays and books and stories. So we're starting to move into this mechanism where it's diving into areas we used to think of as very much as human. So what are some ideas for this? What I see, I euphemize this as people throwing rocks at the Google bus because as it's driving down the streets, because I blame Google for taking my job.
Right. Well, I'm in San Francisco, and that's a very big conversation right now about tech companies saying, winter is coming for us, and we have to recognize we have a big role in this conversation as well as, our business work. I think there's three things that we could do off the bat. One would be to take education seriously and to make college free. So make it so that anyone, anywhere can upskill at any point. People are adaptable. I think people are smart, and if given opportunity, so it's not that you work all day, take care of your child, and then go to night school to try and eke out the next skill, but in fact it's available to you at a community college. We make it so that colleges are able to be more flexible in the sort of skills and apprenticeships that they offer.
And we're going to have Sebastian Thrun here on Tuesday. Sebastian, amazing guy. He ran the DARPA Grant Challenge winning team and then joined Google, where he created Google X, and then created Google's autonomous car company, and is now the creator of Udacity, which is a platform that can allow people to upskill, and it's nearly free. But Udacity is a global platform where you can learn whatever you want to learn. Right?
Yeah, so I think that's one. Two is to think about our safety net as a sort of a 2.0 version. Let's make it portable, prorated, and universal. So no matter where and how I work in America, whether I'm an Uber driver or I have a manufacturing job, I have access to sick time, retirement, paid time off, workers' comp, the basics that built the American middle class. Right now it's all or nothing and only lives inside traditional employment. Let's make it so that no matter how I work, it's prorated, it adds to my account, and it's universal. And then the third thing, I think this conversation around universal basic income is very important. I think that jobs offer three things. They offer paychecks, politics, and purpose. And it's impossible to get at the purpose, in my view, without dealing with the paycheck piece of it. And then I think we'll worry about the civil society sort of worldview narrative piece, the politics piece as well. But the universal basic income would allow an economic floor, just guarantee an economic floor for everyone. And I think it's the only way we could really move into this world of abundance and ensure that it's distributed evenly.
So I've been going around and asking people and brainstorming myself ideas about what do we do about this, right? So I've had one idea that I've kicked around with someone who had the same idea, Shervin Pishavar, and I'll pitch one idea just to get us going. I'd like to hear your ideas. I'd like to hear your ideas, right? This is our goal, to try and every year come up, figure it out, try and get, as Tony said, the heads of nation states to have this conversation. So one idea would be, imagine if, and Jeff Holden will be here Tuesday morning, who runs Uber's autonomous car programs, imagine as Uber transitions its drivers from driving cars to unemployed, what if instead the proverbial Uber driver actually becomes a shareholder in that autonomous Uber? So that, in fact, those robots doing the work are my robots. We become the king and the queen, and our, I want to call it slaves, but our workers are working for us. So I can say, those three Ubers over there, they're my Ubers, they're earning revenue for me. That bricklaying machine that's building a house, that's my bricklaying machine. Would that help create a new story where we humans are the owners of those robots and those AIs doing the things, and we can sit back, relax, it's doing the work and it's contributing to our income and increased capability. So that's an idea. I'll throw that out to get the conversation going.
Can I react?
Yeah, I think
Richard
Branson had a similar idea, and I personally think the idea that if I can be connected to what's replaced me, and if I can have some part in maintaining it, supporting, doing something in it, I think it's almost like making someone a business owner in some way. I think it's actually an excellent idea myself. I think in addition, I'd like to put an idea which won't sound very interesting because we haven't solved the first basic income level, but I try to think couple stages ahead, especially the things that are the most risk, and those primitive emotions are the next risk. The lack of meaning is the next risk. It's what can turn people into living in AI and living in, drugs and alcohol and everything else as an escape because their life doesn't feel good to them. But there's nothing on earth makes a bigger difference than someone doing something that is outside themselves, some form of contribution beyond themselves. Ray Kurzweil, not Ray Kurzweil, the Principal Ray, who am I thinking of? Financial Ray, Peter.
Oh, Ray Dalio.
Like his name.
Ray Dalio.
Yeah, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio and I were talking the other day, and I was having a conversation with him, and he was saying that this whole idea that if you could get people Because, you know, Ray every year sends people checks and gives checks to them, but they're made out to some other form of charity. And I do the same thing with some of my extended family members and friends. And both found it to be so incredible because people who didn't really quite honestly give a shit about anybody else, they can't spend the money on themselves, so they end up spending it on others. And the difference in their impact, I mean, I know you know that they've done studies now where they can see the changes in your saliva to know what's actually happening in your hormones. If somebody just buys 3 people coffee at Starbucks behind them, and they spend, you know, $10, $15, whatever it is, they get a longer high and a greater sense of meaning and a new story that I'm a contributor. I'm not somebody who just gets things, I'm a person that gives things. Nothing creates a greater emotional uplift than that form of contribution. So I would add to it, and again, it's further out, that if we're gonna give people UBI of some sort, why not take a small fraction of that and make it so that it's something they have to find someone else and support with in some way, because that will change the psychology from what am I getting all the frickin' time, and it'll never be enough. Whatever you make with UBI won't be enough. They'll want more, or what does. To at least starting to introduce people to the idea that, holy shit, I can be an agent of impact, an agent of love, an agent of making a difference, and a part of what I do needs to make a difference for others. It's almost a way to install values in the story of humanity as we move further and further apart from communities that did that naturally.
Amazing. I just want to note, we have on our wall over here where the comments are being upvoted. So we have here, I love the second one here. How can we balance the speed of innovation and disruption with the speed of governments and policy? And that for me is one of the underlying biggest issues. Because I don't think the government, I mean, I remember when the current administration came into power, I wouldn't say who it was, but someone from the administration tweeted and said, technological unemployment isn't going to be an issue for the next 100 years. And it's like, whoa. So, I mean, the government, religions, a lot of institutions are meant to stabilize the world, but the world is accelerating in its change.
Yeah.
So what do you say about that?
I think one thing we do is we start with the laboratories of democracy and we go to cities. So we've invested in the 27-year-old mayor of Stockton, California, Michael Tubbs, 27. He's been in office for a few years and he's launched the first basic income experiment.
So where is he?
In Stockton, California.
Stockton, okay.
The middle of California, very agricultural, industrial town. And he's launched the first basic income experiment in the US that a city is running. And I think mayors are close to the people. They know the stories, they know the names, and they're ready and hungry for experiments. They also see the pain. It's not an intellectual exercise for them. So I think we invest in mayors to experiment and make the case for the moment when the federal government is more, you know, competent and ready to move on things.
So I want to go to...
Isn't he putting out like $500 per person in his community? And then the people will take that, perhaps use that as some base money, and they can still go educate themselves, is what I read. How is that going so far? Does it start in 6 months? I was curious, because I saw what's happening in Finland. We've got 2,000 people there getting $670, and you've got Canada and Ontario is doing a study right now with giving people $12,000 from 18 to 64, 4,000 people. Canada's tried this 3 times. They tried it in the 70s, tried it in the 2000s, they're trying it again. Is there a model right now that we can point to that's working? I believe it will work, but is there one that's working that you're looking at?
No, they're all still experiments. We're very much in the age of pilots, and I think we need to move beyond that. The literature has shown, it's clear, when people have money, birth weights go up, people stay in school longer, cortisol levels go down. It's all the things we would know when you have basic income needs met. And so the studies are clear. I think now it's time to move into policy.
One of the nonprofits that my family and I are supporting this year is I had a webinar with the CEO. It's Give Directly, givedirectly.com, right? And for $60,000, which is the level we'll be supporting this year on out, you can support a village in Africa to have all the food and education and healthcare that they need. So check out Give Directly as a means, and you know, it's something like 90% of the capital goes directly into those individuals to you can support a person, a family, a village, whatever level you want. So I see, is that Jeff over there at the screen? So let's get a few comments. So my question to you is, what ideas do you have to address this issue. That's what we're looking for. It's a town hall conversation. We'll blow it out next year, but this is the beginning of it. If we can get some lights in there. It is Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Natalie. So, number one, I just read in the LA Times yesterday that California's got the lowest unemployment that it's ever had since it started. And California is the mecca of this technological revolution. So the first indication I have is that Ray is probably right. Now, there may be some things coming in, and just you know, I write software, automation information software, and we actually, in factory workers, we make it so that one person could do the work of 5 people. So, and generally when they, you know, the first fear is, oh my goodness, I don't have my job anymore. But what I've noticed is that as people leave, because this is physical mail, and by the way, physical mail is dropping, it's what's happening. They leave that job, they get often a much better job, they get a little bit higher pay, and one of the things that I see, and this is just my, you know, I think that people actually get an opportunity when they get up to another job. And they get something so much better. I think that work is a fantastic place for people to learn. And so I come here and I think of, and I hear about like rival theory and people being able to be trained in new ways to get away from that old world. And then they get more meaning in their life because they're going to be augmented with new technology. So they're going to be able to create more value. And Tony, you just said it. We're about creating more and more value. And as I can augment myself to create more value, well, and we take rival technologies and we use new technologies to help people into new jobs. As Ray said, that I can't even imagine what they're going to be, but even as this technological changes comes faster and faster, we're going to have amazing people that get to jump up to their next level of greatness because they can see at a very local level this unemployment, and then they can find out how to use things like this new training technologies and whatnot for people to discover something. You know, years ago, we all had, you know, such a small percentage of the population. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, right near Harvard and MIT, and I can tell you there was such a small percentage of the population that got the education. And now we have this fantastic opportunity because as people change, they're going to be willing to learn something new because there's going to be enough disruption in their workplace, so they're going to actually be interested in learning. And so I'm very, actually it sounds bad, but I'm very hopeful that this change that's going to come is going to get people to get to their opportunity to jump up to their next level of greatness. So in other words, modern technologies used to change in ways that we can't even see right now. I know it's, but I just, you know, anyway, that's my thought.
Thank you. Rob.
In 1974, in Dauphin, Manitoba, the Manitoba government had an experiment called Mincome, and the people of Dauphin were guaranteed a minimum basic living, and that experiment lasted for 4 years. And they went back to do an assessment. During that period of time, hospitalization dropped 8.5%. Teenagers stopped working to support families, and mothers stayed home to be with their children. So I think there might be something there. It's worthwhile looking at that experiment from the 70s in Dauphin, Manitoba called Mincome. Maybe you know about it, Natalie.
I do, yeah. And we actually are supporting a documentary right now that's gone to Dauphin and has interviewed a bunch of the folks who received the income. Interestingly, at the time, part of the reason it was cut off is because they said, oh, workforce participation is decreasing. That's bad. We don't want people out there just playing video games. And so they cut it off. But in fact, what the researcher now, Evelyn Forget, has found was what you said. The people who weren't participating in the workforce were mothers deciding to stay home longer with their children, and 18-year-old boys who weren't leaving high school to go have to support their families. So it's a reminder that that narrative and that cultural narrative plays a huge part.
Let me read the top two on the board here. It says, more wealth created for sure, how to prevent it from being concentrated to the few. The second one is, why in a room full of private entrepreneurs do we think that this is a problem that can only be or should be solved by the government? And let me be clear, I don't believe this has to be, I don't think it's going to be solved by the government. I would not expect the government to solve global warming or job issues or any of this stuff. For me, the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. So if this is a problem, everyone, all the entrepreneurs listening, these are great opportunities for you to create businesses around to help solve that problem.
Can I actually, a point of historical reference, about 70 years ago, the big three auto employers and the big three auto unions came together in Detroit to craft out the Treaty of Detroit. And that is what determined that employers had a responsibility to the worker and that they would offer paid time off, unemployment insurance, workers' comp, retirement in exchange for loyalty from that worker. And we've since seen what Rick Wartzman calls the end of loyalty, and we've seen that shred. But that was the basis of the social contract. And it was not government. Government enshrined it as law later. But it was the unions at the time who, represented a power center of employees, and the employers who took it upon themselves to figure it out. So I'm really glad.
And one of the things I just want to add, and one of the triggers for that was an enormous amount of violence. Everybody's leaving that little part out. And so that's part of what brought them to the table. And so here we're talking about, like, I agree with you, Jeff, first speaker. I couldn't believe more that we're going to generate more jobs, more opportunities, and there are things that are there. But what is missing sometimes when you're in a room with people like ourselves who have built our own lives is that there is a mass number of individuals who do not have your psychology. They don't have your model of the world of this is an opportunity. They don't have your model of the world that says, I'm going to grow even more and have the opportunity. There's a larger base of people that will see their world taken from them. And the responsiveness you can see around the world when that happens, what it's like. And so I think what this discussion is about is to say, look, we could all be wrong. Maybe we'll create just as many jobs, maybe we'll create more jobs, all be perfect. But if we're wrong, the consequences are so big. So this is where we as business owners can do exactly what Natalie's talking about. We don't have to wait for challenges or violence. We can say, look, we're going to have this windfall from our technology. How do we take care of our workers in a way that no one else has? And maybe start the ball rolling, an example, and we bring government into it. I really believe Natalie's discussion there is real, but I think we're leaving out the reality of history, which is massive violence brought those people together. And so we don't want to go through that again. I don't want to. I don't think you want to. You don't want your children to. You don't want the environment to. That's why this is not a place to take a chance. It's a place to say, wow, let's hope it works exactly like you said. I couldn't agree more. Long-term it will. But let's simultaneously protect it by seeing what we can do as business people and then also what we can do to augment government's inclusion in some of these solutions.
Let's take another point here.
Yes. I give a talk at YPO audiences and to cryptocurrency audiences on compound cataclysmic disruptors, because I believe one of the things we sometimes fail to see is that these things interrelate. So the solution could be interrelated too. So for example, when governments become ineffective, you have a fundamental currency system that is being developed that is now perhaps global and may supplant and make some kinds of governments obsolete. And I think that that might still lead to violence, but here's the way that I see it. If you end up thinking of this as a universal basic income, it's really a labeling and marketing problem. It ought to end up ultimately being payment for you to be a consumer and make that universal in the sense that everybody, whether you're a billionaire or not, get the same 200 grand a year to take care of your basics and your fundamentals, and you contribute potentially over a relatively short period of time, like open source programmers do, to create code that you get tokens for from the decentralized companies that you're dealing with. Because frankly, I would say one of the things we forget to think is we look at Uber as some kind of a new generation system, and they live up to the 6 Ds. They don't live up to the 7 Ds, and that is decentralizing Uber means there should be no employees at Uber. It should just be a library of software that is created by a whole bunch of folks. Now, before you say that doesn't work, remember that 10 years ago was the introduction in July of 10 years ago of the smartphone. And we worried 10 years ago how old people might, not ever learn to use computing technology. The fact is 10 years later, everybody has absorbed it. And I think in another 10 years or 5 years, yes, there'll always be a casualty because retail, there will be no employees in retail. Just check out what is happening at Amazon. There will be no pilots. Even though people claim that, oh, gee, I won't fly an airplane or in an airplane unless they got a pilot, the fact of the matter, if that becomes the marketing problem, that's solved with a $12 an hour pilot sitting in the cockpit giving you the placebo that it's somebody taking care of the pilot. But nobody's going to be flying it. So when you put all this together with crypto, with blockchain, with software, transitions to contribute and giving everyone a chance to get the exact same amount of fundamentals. Now, we also, I think, are, based on HR studies, we are of the knowledge that once you take care of those basics for folks, they seek out productive activity beyond that. If they have less than what is necessary, that's when they have bad behavior.
Sashi, thank you. By the way, I'll just mention that Uber is concerned about a disintermediated, distributed, you know, a DAO, right?
Same for Airbnb.
There's a name for it. It's called a Duber.
A distributed, automated
distributed Uber. Yeah. But you know, the other point is, I was at when I was with the team with Bell Helicopters that are working on their autonomous air taxi service. It's got 4 seats, but they're going to sacrifice 1 seat for the first couple years of operation to have someone there who is a pilot who does nothing. Please.
I wouldn't be surprised if most people that are here see some version of the 4 options. There'll be an immediate change that we need to address. There's a phase of transition, but in the end, I think the problem becomes very human, and we use the word purpose frequently in how to express what we think people will lack. But ironically, AI, which might be part of the disrupting component, could potentially play a great help going forward. And I hate to use such a what will seem a silly example, but I think of it like the WALL-E future or like the Blade Runner future, right? Take away the need to do, you know, a series of tasks that perhaps computers or AI could do for us, and will we, you know, choose to run around on those little scooters and get fat, or will we choose to have sort of deeper, meaningful relationships? Even with AI, in the most recent Blade Runner movie, I was sort of, I don't know, there was an interesting concept that you could have quite a deep and personal relationship, helping him through a variety of very challenging parts in his life, literally with a person that he thought of as the girlfriend that lives in his house. I realize that's somewhat science fiction, but certainly AI could be part of the solution. You showed some of the companies today that have some of that, I don't know the name, unfortunately, but the sort of forward-facing customer service solutions as if you're speaking to another human. I think that could help.
Ava, yeah, was the digital assistant. And we're going to see the age of digital assistants. This coming year, we're going to start to see a lot of new digital assistants coming online. And just, you know, Siri and Amazon Echo and Google HomePod, just the beginning. You know, it's 1% of what we're going to see over the next 12 to 24 months. Debut.
And I think alongside relationships are also the ability to explore entrepreneurial activities. Give Directly, who you referenced earlier, a lot of their studies show that when people have basic needs met, they're more likely to take a risk and start a business. They actually have the capital to do so. Some of the risk is taken out of it, and that is the America I want to live in, the unleashing of that creativity.
Tony, do you want to add something here?
I wanted to ask a question, actually, in terms of, has anyone done any of the research, and maybe you know, Natalie, on what the cost would be? You know, you say, when their basic needs met. Well, like I said, it's doing like, I think it's $760 in Finland, right? What's the amount of money that really covers the basic needs of America today, and what would that cost us? And what percentage is that of some other budget we already have?
Yeah, I think the math is really important. And I also think the concept of needs is important, because it's true that cash alone does not meet people's basic needs. We'd have to address our healthcare system. In California, we would have to address the housing crisis. It would be pointless to, I think, give people cash without addressing those things. It would go straight to the industries that already are extracting like that. So we'd have to. However, cash does solve a lot of problems. And, commonly people talk about $1,000 a month as a starting point. And that is, you know, a large chunk of our current GDP. So it's true that in this room we talk about universal basic income like it is something that will inevitably happen. In rooms, and I worked for President Obama and spent time political organizing, in those rooms it is considered a seismic shift that would be a generational shift in politics. So we actually have a lot of work to do to make it something that we actually could see happen in the coming years.
Avi, you've been thinking about this for quite some time.
Well, we've been discussing it for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And I think that first we need to remember that this is not just a problem for California or the United States. This is a global crisis. Second is that the train left the station a long time ago. We're just becoming aware of all of the potential disruption. Third, that the cost of not doing something is greater than the cost of actually coming up with a solution, because the level of disruption and chaos that will come from the insecurity of the core of the human condition will dwarf any monetary cost that will be required to fix it. And that we need a real sense of urgency. I don't think, Peter, that it's acceptable to wait for next year to have another discussion. We need to have a real sense of urgency.
And I know that this is a focus also for Singularity University. This year we'll be having more conversations. I will make that information available to the community. Again, I have
not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a suggestion, something to think about. Yeah. We have an organization here called the X Prize. And the X Prize is designed to basically solve some of these grand problems through incentivized competitions. We have governments and we have some of the largest corporations in the world that are going to be directly threatened by what's to be unleashed here. Yeah. Let's get governments and the biggest, let's get the Ubers and the Amazons and the Googles to fund the most critical to success and elementary to humanity and to the meaning of meaning in this next evolution that is already afoot. Let's put something together that will be funded by the most interested and deepest pockets around the world and governments, and let's catalyze everybody else to try and solve this, because we're not going to solve it here, and we don't have time to continue to debate it and discuss it leisurely because the train left the station.
Thank you, Avi.
+1.
Avi, I think that's brilliant.
Sashi, in the back of the room here.
Hi, thank you. Two observations about demographics. In the U.S., the threshold to own a gun is relatively low. And the other important demographic is that our population is getting older. In the Northern Hemisphere, that's especially true. And so as we keep in mind an elderly population, a growing elderly population, and then in the U.S., the propensity for potential violence as you have an angered population makes this an even more pressing issue. So maybe two tidbits of ideas that may supplement to add to your thoughts.
Please.
One is, instead of a government-driven UBI program, could we set this up as a corporate competition? And we have some kind of expectation or baseline that in your community as a company, if you're located in Raleigh, North Carolina, you're going to support 5% of your workforce population, or some sort of proportion. Can we establish a corporate competition to support their local communities? And then second, I've got hundreds of employees, many of you have hundreds or thousands of employees, and one of the things that I find we don't do enough is just ask, how are you, to our people. And if we could have someone, I could imagine someone in a wheelchair, an elderly person, someone who's underemployed, that I would love to sponsor. That story is powerful, it adds to our corporate narrative, but also if I could ask that person to spend a couple of hours a day just asking people, it could be virtual, they could come to the office and just say, how are you? What's going on? The basics of counseling don't require a huge skill set to master. Thank you.
Sashi, that's beautiful. I know, and I've shared this conversation, when my father was passing away 18 months ago, in the hospital room, I remember that the entire medical experience, I hadn't been in a hospital for a long time, the entire medical experience was a completely depersonalized. It was the cardiologist looking at his heart, it was the neurologist looking at his Alzheimer's, it was the osteopath, everybody was looking at different parts. There was no one looking at the person, right? So I think for the time being, the whole human, and again, the big conversation is what does it mean to be human, right? Could we imagine an AI that is empathic and loving and caring that you'd rather spend time with than a human? And then poof, that opportunity is gone as well. Tony, thoughts on this?
Well, I just think that, I think one of the points made earlier I would love to touch on, and that is I think the idea that we can use AI to help solve some of these problems, I think is actually very intelligent. I mean, what we really need is people need meaning. What is meaning? I mean, if you think of motivation, this is what people think of me as, it's never been what I've done, but if you think of motivation, it's your motive to act. What moves people to do whatever they do? Well, if you're trying to motivate people, there's really only 3 forms of motivation. There's fear, which never lasts. It works, it's effective, but it doesn't have a duration to it. You can look at any despot, any major country in the world, and you can see eventually people rise up. You can do incentives, and incentives are wonderful, but there's a point when there's only so much margin in your business where people adjust to the incentives and they start to become an expectation. They're no longer appreciated, they're expected, and then all of a sudden you don't have the benefit of driving anyone anymore. And the third motivation, the only one's lasting I've found in my life, is people's own growth. Their sense of autonomy, their sense that they can create something in their life, their sense of impact, their sense of meaning, their ability to learn and grow, touch and experience things. And I think AI could be part of the solution for how people find their meaning, find what they really want to do, train a new set of skills more rapidly. So again, I'm optimistic over the whole piece, but I'm with Avi. This is something that needs to be dealt with now, and we're sitting around on the sidelines of society, and government's definitely not going to do it, as Alec just said. I mean, you talk to these individuals, and they're very smart individuals who really care, but they're so far from it, and their mind is, this is 20 years in the future. Again, maybe we're wrong, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll all be perfectly smooth, but we can't afford the risk of being wrong in this situation as a society. And so I think looking how to use AI, looking how to create a competition within corporations, looking to see what to do, but we also got to involve the people this affects. We're all sitting around here, wealthy, well-to-do business owners, proactive, creators, users of technology, thinking how this is going to work out for people who, I got to tell you, I deal with people of every walk of life from 100 countries, from the most difficult, messed up individuals, the most successful humans on Earth. And they have radically different ways of looking at the Earth, radically different ways of looking at what's right, what is wrong, and how to deal with it. And we can't live in this little bubble of Silicon Valley and say it's all going to be fine. That's all I want to add to it.
Charles.
Peter, I appreciate you hosting this forum, and Tony, we've actually challenged each other in this before. I think since this is a room full of innovators, this is the appropriate forum to say this. The reality is, as we've heard before, is we have to help the majority of the population repurpose themselves, right? Retool themselves. The idea is that we're all driven by our own personal needs to achieve. Well, once you take away a need to achieve, whether it be by universal income or by taking away their job and now they don't know what to do, they've done one thing their entire life, what else? The idea here is the faster we retool a person, the faster we help them find their purpose, the faster that we give them personalized and individual attention to where they should be going next. That's when that momentum starts in their life, that fire kicks in, where they actually start doing what they need to do. And so, for me and myself and others, we've been placing investments and we're looking at acquisitions in this space. The idea is that each of us as innovators, we should be taking on our shoulders really to help figure out a way for us to use our capital, our smarts, our innovation to go ahead and move the retooling segment of this forward. Because at the end of the day, guys, all of us in a room, we can take action. We have the ability. So I encourage you to do so.
So thank you, Charles. And the question is going to be, what action do we take, right? And that's the conversation, whether through an X Prize that I've recommended or in these conversations here, to figure out what it is. Again, the only idea I can think of right now is go from a universal basic income to universal ownership strategy. All right, so Sunil.
Hi, Peter. So I've been thinking about this problem for quite some time. I think the most elegant solution that I've heard so far was by a gentleman named Karthik, up north in Silicon Valley. And what he said is there's probably going to be a different flavor, not just a UBI, but it actually is something that the government's already doing called quantitative easing, and redistributing those funds to not just go to certain banks and organizations that are using them today, but to the larger public. Right now what happens is there's a large redistribution factor that happens with all the funds that are collected through taxes, and there's inefficiencies, and that inefficiency will get hopefully taken out of the system by eliminating some of the taxes, and QE then goes to fund some sort of a UBI program.
And another version is found in Alaska, a dividend, right? The Alaskan oil bounty offers a dividend to every Alaskan that's between $1,000 and $3,000 a year per person. So if you're a family of 4, that adds up. We did the first research last year with the Omidyar Network, we being the Economic Security Project, into what people think about the dividend and how they use it. And it was what you'd imagine. It's very popular. The universality of it is very important to Alaskans. They feel like it's a right. They use it to meet basic needs or to put into education funds. And I think you could imagine sort of a dividend for America similarly.
So I really want to say I love that as the better story than a handout, so to speak, because I'm part of this country, I'm part of the productivity of this country, and so I get that. Now, as we all know, this also is used by despots in the Middle East to keep people from going crazy. They give them a dividend there too. But I think that is a really good direction of the story. I also just want to mention Charles. Charles, you know, my view of that, like each of us individually, is I'm working right now with Rival Theory to create an AI that's based on my needs, my motivations, my drives, my understandings, my insights, so that I can do what I can do with people. You know, I usually do 10, 15,000 people at a time and try to create the illusion of one-on-one, because I'm good enough to make you feel I'm talking to you and meeting your needs. I'm broad enough, but I can have a one-on-one experience through the AI, where AI can think. It remembers everything. I'm pretty good at memory, but it'll remember everything you've ever said, and it'll stay in that AI. It won't be distributed anywhere else. And it can care. And if I can build that, you know, from the beginning of Pong to what it can begin, as an individual, I can go out and help hundreds of millions of people individually through that AI. So I do think this technology, again, can be turned on itself as part of the solution. But I also think simultaneously we have to be looking at what's the story to make it acceptable to government. And Natalie, I totally agree with you. I think a dividend is the right direction. It's something that, you know, but we'd have to lead as business leaders in being supportive of it. When you've got the Googles and you've got the Facebooks and everybody talking about universal income, but they're not doing anything towards it, doesn't mean much. But if we can find a way to start to move something towards it, some play off that, you know, maybe we got a chance to accelerate the tempo here.
All right, I'm going to take 2 last comments here before we break here. Please, Colin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not entirely sure we're the right audience to answer this question, because most of you are incredibly successful. I'm sure there's a few that have had a few ups and downs. If I look at it, I don't think money is necessarily the solution. Clearly it's part, it's got to be done. We've got to go and find a way to sustain, it's not the money, it's sustain life. Make sure that people get choice, they get the food that they need. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whichever level you put it, that's what's got to be solved. Will it get solved? I don't know. For me, I think we can look at this, you know, to what Tony said earlier, as an emotional, you know, piece. And the people who can help us to ask the right questions to then solve for are the people who've been through this. You know, I'm sitting there and I suddenly have a critical illness, I can't work. What was that feeling? How did I get back on my feet? I've been made unemployed. I'm living in a country like Zimbabwe, where it was bumper crops and we have the good times, and suddenly unemployment and poverty has increased exponentially. How do they survive and still, you know, maintain a very happy culture? And without bringing these sorts of people into the debate who've lived it, breathed it, and come out the other side positive, I'm not sure we're necessarily solving with the right question that goes behind it. Because for me, it's about meaning. You know, people need meaning. Happiness is behind meaning. It doesn't matter what level of wealth you've got. And so if we're going to use AI and exponential technologies, how do we give meaning to the people when they're coming out on the other side? My question to you guys.
Thank you.
I think it's also more than meaning. I think it's teaching resiliency so they can find meaning. You can't give people meaning, but you can teach them how to be resilient when these things jar them. And I couldn't agree with you more. Bringing in those individuals that have been through hell and kept going and got to the other side, and modeling their perceptions, their belief structures, the way they attack things, And teaching that to a mass audience of people, I think one of the critical elements. Think of it this, it's not a technical disruption, it's an emotional disruption. The technology is not disrupting, it's the emotions of people disrupting, because we can probably provide with this abundance enough for everybody. It's what's it going to do in here and adhere to people, and how are they going to react to it. That's the issue at hand, even more than the technology itself.
Our closing thought here, please.
Thank you, Peter. So, two thoughts. I think we have to go even before college. I think we have to look at the K through 12, and I think we have to rethink the whole educational system. To your point, Natalie, I mean, we need to teach critical thinking. We need to teach that storytelling. We need to bring creativity back into the schools. We still teach like we used to teach 100 years ago, which doesn't line up with where we are today with technology. We don't teach children how to be solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. Those are the skill sets, like Tony was just talking about, the resiliency, that creativity, those are the skill sets they need. You see the kids, like I sponsor First Robotics, when they get that applied learning, they light up, they see the value of what they're learning. That's how we need to change our educational system. And on top of that, I just came out of a meeting last week with a director of industrial relations here in California. We have to rethink what a teacher is. We have a lot of barriers to entry here in community colleges and the universities, and you know, we have a lot of subject matter experts here in this state, and I know it goes across country. They're not the ones who are able to go into the schools and teach. They can't be a part of those apprenticeship programs. And if they are, then it's not an accredited apprenticeship programs. That whole model's broken, and it has to be fixed to keep up with the technology and where we're going. And I know that gets into an issue with labor and the teachers union, but that is a huge Achilles heel to giving people the skill sets they need in the time and the speed that they need it. It's just not happening, especially in this state.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And Pamela, we're going to have a whole session on education Tuesday right after lunch, and we'll be diving into this for employees and for your kids. So, a closing thought?
Well, just one more thought on that. We've been here as a nation before. When we were moving from the farms to the factories, the high school movement sprung up in Middle America, where people said, I want something more for my child who will not be working on the farms. And now it's, you know, the way we do education systems. So we can absolutely change it. It just is going to take a lot more political will, and to the point we're making, a lot more investment, both time, energy, and financial investment. There are people thinking about ballot initiatives in this cycle that would start to prototype what a dividend model could look like in California and Washington State and Colorado. Support that. Get behind that. Work with those folks. Speak out. Your voices will make a huge difference in moving us toward a social contract 2.0.
Awesome. Tony, would like to share a closing thought for today.
I'll just say I invite everyone to really take a stand and decide what you believe. If you really believe there's nothing to be done, you'll continue your life. If you think something needs to be done, even though you're busy as hell and you have all the other things in your life, think about what you can do. Think about the chunks. Part of it is getting conversation loud enough, strong enough, with enough consequences that we can anticipate what's coming immediately. Those are not hard to figure out which ones those are, self-driving cars being one of the most obvious ones, impacting all of those individuals. But then secondly, thinking about what do we do in our own businesses that can come up with some solutions that we can test? What are those little skunk works that we can give a shot at, or that we can get others in our industry to do? And third is, what do we do to start to look at government itself, communicate, use our voices, use our influence to start to look at how to make this work, and probably locally at community levels, like I was going to discuss with Natalie, and the state levels is where that needs to happen first. And then there's the big last piece, which is education as a whole, which has to be tackled for all the reasons we've talked about. But we don't take care of warming up quick because we think we've got time for the rest. I think that's where we have challenges, and I'm hoping we've rung the bell strong enough that even people in this tech industry would say, look, you know, I think it's going to be fine, but I can't afford to be wrong. What can I do? Because there's power in this room. There's so many people in this room who care so deeply, have such great intellect, have such great context, and who can create solutions. And I hope that you'll move forward. I'll support the X Prize if you put it up there that Avi came up with. I think this is an important direction.
Thank you, Tony. And We've moved A360 next year to the last week in January to deconflict with Business Mastery and Davos. So you can physically bring your meat body here, and hopefully with some of we'll bring both the unions, the truck drivers, and the living presidents, and have this conversation in earnest and really blow this out and do the work between now and then. Natalie, so grateful for you to take a break from maternity leave to come and join us, and everybody, thank you for your ideas. Please thank Tony and Natalie.
Thanks so much, Peter. Take care.
See you, pal. All right. So, and he's out. All right, we're going to go into the last segment of our tech showcase, and then we're going to be going to our reception. I want to thank Art Media, who provided the hologram facilities, and it's technology I'm beginning to use to get me to this side of the planet and back before Hyperloop or Avatar is with us. So let's bring up our next tech showcase. So, great. It's a pleasure to bring up on stage well, let's roll video first for Vasper Systems.
If you talk to any doctor, they would tell you that exercise is your best form of medicine. So I wanted to look at something that actually was proactive health rather than reactive health.
Vasper is this incredible technology that basically enables people to mimic the physiology of a more intensive workout and initiate some of the same benefit.
We basically hacked the brain into thinking you just did 2 sessions of CrossFit and then ran up a 2,000-foot mountain. And the reason for that is, of course, because of cooling and compression.
The people that it has the most impact for are the ones that lack the physical capacity to do regular anaerobic exercise. And when you see that population get on for the first time, those are really the most powerful case studies.
So for athletes, this is a game changer. For everyone else, it's a quality of life game changer.
Please welcome to the stage Peter Wasowski, the CEO of Vasper Systems. Peter.
Peter, great seeing you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
We share Vasper and Singularity University are both on the Moffett Field, and I had a chance in your early days to actually come and see the technology and your development. And then when I saw it, when Dan was talking about it, and I was like, wow, you guys have come a long way. And then when I got the chance to use it in Bulletproof Labs, you've done a beautiful job.
Thank you very much.
And you actually have some of your Vasper machines here for people to try.
We do. We have 2 functional Vasper systems at the Tech Hall, and obviously would love to have as many people test drive it as possible during this next 2 days.
So tell us about beyond what the video said, who should be using Vasper? Is it for everybody? Is it for how much time? How often should I be using it? What are your thoughts?
So it is actually for everybody. Our youngest user that's using Vasper is 9 years old. Our oldest user is 97 years old.
God bless him.
And then we have elite military that's using it, astronauts, professional athletes, and anybody in here. So it is a force multiplier for exercise. Basically, we give you a benefit of 2 hours of intense exercise in 21 minutes while you're sitting on a chair with cooling and light compression. And there's a tremendous effect on the hormonal system. So we have measured significant increase of testosterone, growth hormone, decrease in nighttime cortisol levels, could translate into a much higher quality of sleep. So the most reported benefit of Vasper is a huge increase in quality of sleep. And as you know, between 2nd and 3rd stage of sleep, our pituitary gland produces 50% of your daily hormone levels, and most of us miss it. That's why energy drink business is doing well, coffee business is doing well. And you actually get that benefit on Vasper. So nothing replaces the experience. We invite everyone to come and give it a try.
It's really something that's extraordinary. And I mean, people are putting this in their homes. You have them in Bulletproof Labs. And how much is you're selling the systems, yes? What's a Vasper system cost if I wanted to put one in my home?
The cost today is $40,000. The actual retail is $45,000. We sell it at $40,000 to the Genius Network members of 360 and so forth, and Strategic Coach. And that includes warranty, delivery. One of our team members will fly over or drive over to actually train the user how to use it. And we have, I believe, about 58 of these in private homes. So one person stated that quite eloquently when he purchased 2 units, one for each one of his homes. And I flew over myself to install it, and he says, you know, a healthy person has 1 million wishes. And a person who does not have health has only 1 wish. And I could afford 1 million wishes, so that's why I bought it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. There is nothing more important than your health. Exactly. And we forget about that. The other thing, second to your health is your time. And when you only have a short amount of time to work out, that's where Vasper comes in as a huge value proposition.
Absolutely.
Well, fantastic. Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter.
I love it. And please get a chance to try it because the experience is really very enjoyable. Thank you, Peter. All right. When it comes to talking about improving your sleep when using a Vasper machine, how do you know that you've improved your sleep? Well, there's a technology that I love, that I use. Let's roll a video, and then we'll bring out the president of Aura Ring.
We are so proud to announce the new Aura Ring to you all.
It's really light. It's lighter than a conventional ring.
It's like a wedding band.
You can almost forget that you are wearing a ring.
And it looks awesome. It is even more accurate, it has more processing power, it has more memory. But even with added functionality, we've been able to lengthen the battery life.
It's about using the power smartly. The battery size is half of the first ring, and then we have a battery life that is triple of the first ring, so it is amazing. One of the key things is improved message engine, so that the application learns about you.
The customers will see more personalized guidance that will be fitting to them, like a well-fitting dress or suit.
Please welcome Harpreet, the president of Aura. Harpreet, great to see you, pal.
Hey, Peter. How are you?
Great to see you. Yeah. So, guys, first of all, I'm very proud. Aura is a Bold Capital Partners investment. You guys have a booth here, and I love my Aura Ring. And in fact, here it is. You've seen me talk about it, wear it. I'm very proud because last night, I got my sleep score over here. Last night I got my highest score ever, 94%.
Nice.
Yeah. 43 heart rate.
Wow.
Hour and a half. Hour and a half of deep sleep. 3 hours, 10 minutes of REM. And it's amazing, right? Because I'm now learning I don't want to eat any sweets at all before dinner.
Yeah.
I don't want to work out before dinner or have any alcohol. And I've done the experiments, and this gives me the data to understand what makes me have an amazing light sleep.
Totally.
And it's beautiful. So people ask me what this ring is, and they, is it like a mood ring, or is it an onyx, whatever the case might be. But it is an amazing sensor that is actually changing the way I think about how I spend a third of my life.
Yep.
Awesome. So this is the Gen 1 ring that's got a large face, which actually it's a conversation starter.
It is.
Yeah. The Gen 2 ring that is coming out, and how many have you sold of these?
So we sold, in the past 12 months, we sold about 12,000 Gen 1s.
Yeah.
In the last 45 days, we've sold about 13,000 Gen 2s.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This it?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to steal this.
That's not your size. So, oh, man. I thought it was.
It fits. Thank you. So it's amazing because it really, how your good night's sleep impacts you for the rest of the day, and do you know, and how do you modify it? Unless you can measure it, you can't impact it. And the data you get, which is, pretty extraordinary level of data, has actually changed how I behave.
That's awesome to hear. That's terrific.
So you have a booth here.
Correct.
And one of the things I'm very proud, we had a conversation among our team, and so everybody here is going to be getting an Aura Gen 2 ring for free.
Yep.
Happy about that. What's your retail price on this?
$299 to $399.
Yeah.
But if you come by the booth and you just fill out this form, we have a sizing kit there. You can pick out your color and your size, and we'll get them to you when we ship in April.
And can people buy extra rings at a discount?
Yes, they can. Actually, we created a special coupon for everyone online that's watching, and anyone else you guys want to share it with. Code A360 will give you $100 off. So use that for any of your friends. Please tell them.
So digitally, I want to make sure you got part of the action here, so you get $100 off. But please use this, play with it. I think it's a game changer, and I'm just continually impressed by the level of data. Anything else you want to share with the audience other than a free ring?
I think you said it really well. We in general spend 20 to 25 years of our lives sleeping, and we know so little about it. Yeah. And everything that we're finding out, sleep is related to all types of chronic disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, obesity. So I think there's so much that we're starting to learn about sleep, and the only way you're going to figure out what works for you is by looking at data every night and understanding that. And so we worked hard to create that, and it's a pleasure to be here.
It's beautiful. Harpreet's brilliant, came in as an investor, then came in as a president. The team is based where?
In Finland.
In Finland. Yeah. And rockstar design, technology, congratulations to all that you're doing. I'm going to give you back this ring.
Thank you.
But not for long. Thank you, Harpreet.
Thank you, guys.
So, at Singularity University, when people come for the executive program, we put them up at a hotel specifically because this hotel is proud to display and utilize the Savioke robot. Let's run the video for Savioke. It's my pleasure to bring on to the stage the former CEO of Willow Garage that wrote the robot operating system and the present CEO of Savioke, Steve Cousins. Steve.
Thanks, Peter.
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us. Through your work at Willow Garage and now at Savioke, you really have been doing so much extraordinary work. You were funded early on by Google Ventures, and so tell us about what hotels you're in, your partnerships, what you're up to.
Yeah, so we were fortunate to get started. Willow Garage, we had this really cool technology, and we made about 50 robots, put them out in the best research labs in the country, and actually around the world. What I realized, I want to put more robots out in the world, right? I want to actually get robots out there helping people, and not just helping researchers create things. So we've put robots in. We started in Aloft hotels, but we're now in all kinds of hotels. If you go to LAX, if you're staying over there, Residence Inn, Embassy Suites, Sheraton, Gateway, all have our robots doing deliveries to the guest rooms.
And your robot can actually navigate the elevator systems and all of that.
So one of the things we tried to do as we created Savioke was say, okay, the basic robotic navigation stuff is pretty good. We've worked on it for 4 years to make it much better, but it starts off pretty good. But what's missing is all the other stuff. How do you get up the elevator? How do you get to the door? When you get to the door of the room, how do you let the person inside know that you're there?
Do you run into the door?
We don't. No, we figured out that it was better to integrate with the phone system. So hotels have phones. And then also, how do you have to lock whatever you send, right? The hotel isn't going to send you any food or anything valuable if you don't lock it inside, because you don't want some kid in the elevator stealing your French fries, right? And so you have to lock it. And then the question is, how are you going to get the person in the room to unlock it? And we figured out that, we've got a robot with all kinds of sensors that can see the world and avoid obstacles. It also sees the door, and it sees when the door opens. So we automatically open the lid when the door opens. It's a fun little innovation.
And the robot makes those fun sounds, too.
And makes fun sounds. And yeah, that actually is one of the things that we had. Those sounds had come out of some work at Willow Garage. So we learned a lot at Willow, and then we put it into practice here. And now we're moving beyond hotels into hospitals, into logistics, into high-rise apartments. Actually, the 10,000, which is down the street here, has one of our robots. And so we're looking at expanding beyond hotels. Hotels is great for visibility. It's great that everybody in your program goes to a loft in Cupertino and experiences it. So that's great for us for visibility. It's not the greatest market for scaling a business quickly, and so now we're looking beyond that.
Sure. And who do you want to meet here? Are people able to invest in what you're doing, use what you're doing in their businesses? Where are you?
Well, good thing you asked. We are raising a round right now, so if you're interested in that, come talk to me. Also, we are looking for use cases so we do indoor delivery, and any building, as long as it's not going to be in the weather, Relay can drive around in. And now that we can do elevators, we can do multi-story buildings in any industry. And so really the question is, what needs to be moved efficiently when? We've found some, like FedEx saw the hotel example and came to us and said, we've got this repair facility where we fix cell phones and other electronics equipment, and it doesn't suit to have an assembly line, hard coding and sort of hard, bolted to the ground to send pieces and parts to assembly workers. It's more like a bunch of people in cubicles and you're just bringing stuff. And so we said, that's interesting. This robot can actually navigate around those cubicles. If somebody leaves their chair out, it's fine. And that's been working great.
Great. So Savio has a booth here. Go check out his robot, play with it, learn with it, find applications for it. Steve, thank you so much,
Thanks very much, Peter.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, you guys know that I've been a huge fan of beam robots, of suitable technologies. I have 20 of them scattered across SU, HLI, my mom's home, my mother-in-law's home. Anyway, please, let's take a quick view at suitable technologies and their latest technology.
Our first product is called Beam, and that's a product that it's a simplest idea. It's basically video conferencing that you have the added ability to be able to move around a physical human space. And that ability to move around is everything.
Well, Suitable Technologies was created to make life easier for people all over the world. We save enormous amounts of resources by not moving ourselves physically through the world, and yet we create more jobs this way. There's more opportunities for people around the world to work remotely for us. Well, the real purpose of Beam was to create a device that allows asynchronous communication between people. We wanted a device to be able to, allow people to move around an office environment on their own and be able to go talk to anybody they wanted to. Since they're actually an employee at a company or some kind of a remote worker friend, they should be able to just go in and talk just like normal.
Please welcome Bo Priesing, the Chief Strategist and Product Officer. Bo, pleasure to have you.
Peter, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the beams, and thank you for Brianna.
Yes, you're welcome for that. She's great, isn't she?
She is. She is. So what's new with Suitable?
So we've just launched our Beam Pro 2 unit, which you can see out in the tech exhibit. And the real reason for doing that is a lot of customers were asking for a larger screen. A lot of customers were asking for add-ons to it. So this is a mobile teleoperated platform that's super reliable and super easy to use. And we're going to be adding things like pan, tilt, zoom cameras on it for healthcare reasons and also for manufacturing reasons. So that's the new thing for us right now.
So you've got a booth here. People can come and play. You have how many models of Beam now?
There's 3 models right now. So we're going to be working on a fourth one pretty soon, the little smaller beam unit that we'll be doing probably next year sometime.
Wonderful. And we're going to have Scott Hassan, who is the founder, creator of both Willow Garage and Suitable Technologies, tomorrow morning at our robots breakfast. So Bo, excited. Thank you for bringing the technology here, and we love promoting Beam across our platform.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Our next session, is it Dean or Cassie? Our next session is a program that is probably one of the most important programs for our future. It is, I had a meeting with one of the most amazing roboticists, engineers of our time. Dean came in many years ago, and I was trying to recruit him to come onto the XPRIZE board. And Dean said, listen, I have one priority in life, and it's FIRST robotics. And as long as you're supporting FIRST, Peter, I'll support what you do. And it is a true pleasure for us to bring FIRST here to Abundance 360. Let's roll video.
I think these kids can really make an impact in all different parts of the world.
I will change the world by bringing STEM jobs to developing countries.
I will provide emergency care for the less fortunate.
It's important that kids have the skills to operate in this world, and the FIRST program helps prepare them for that.
We've encountered many challenges with this, but we come together, we discuss the problem, and then we go back and we try to fix it.
I can't even fathom what these kids are going to go out and do.
FIRST taught me what it meant to be an engineer, which is what led me to start my first company and get to where we are today.
I am a leader.
I am a network engineer.
I am a scientist.
I am FIRST.
I am FIRST. I am FIRST.
I am FIRST.
And I'm just getting started.
Please welcome Cassie McIntyre, Director of Corporate Partnerships. Cassie.
Hey, Peter. How are ya?
I am doing great. So you brought some special guests here today.
I sure did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll introduce them in a second. But what are the basics on FIRST? How many schools are you in right now?
Sure. So I'll give you some statistics.
Yeah.
So we provide K through 12 programming. We're serving about 500,000 students in over 86 countries.
Amazing. And what does it take? I mean, so we're talking about this, and Dean's going to be here tomorrow, or tonight, actually. And then we're doing a session with him in robots tomorrow morning, and then on education on Tuesday. What does it take to start a FIRST robotics team at your kindergarten or at your 6th grade level?
Yeah, so great question. Just the interest. Please contact us. You can see their shirts, firstinspires.org. Really just an interest, a caring adult, and the time. So that's all you need to get started, and then FIRST will do the rest.
So you want to tell us about your special guest?
Yes, so I'm so lucky. I assume I'll be the most popular person in the room after tonight. So the students are joining us for the networking reception. These represent local middle and high school students who participate in FIRST Robotics program. One of our young ladies has been involved for 6 years. One of them is a graduate of our FIRST programs, and so they can really tell you about the power, the impact of our organization, what they're doing now because of it, and all the types of companies they hope to work for in the very near future.
And did you guys bring your robots with you, too? You did. You had a chance to see them outside? Yeah. Fantastic. So anything else you want to tell the audience here before they mob you outside?
This is your future workforce. These are our future leaders and innovators, and programs like FIRST and companies like you investing in programs like FIRST to make education look a little differently is how we're all going to be successful. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Cassie.
Yeah.
A pleasure. And you'll hear more from Dean Kamen on Tuesday. Thank you, guys. Look forward to seeing you outside. Great. All right. We're on a roll. It was about 3 years ago that we debuted human longevity here to the audience. and I know that it's saved a number of people's lives within the A360 community. We're going to be getting an update tomorrow from Dr. Craig Venter, my co-founder, the chairman, the CEO, but I'm bringing up on stage right now Dr. David Caro, who's our Chief Imaging Officer and really helping us reinvent and pioneer what HLI is doing. Let's roll video, and then we'll chat with David.
Human Longevity Inc., or HLI, is the genomics-based health intelligence company, empowering proactive healthcare and enabling a life better lived. HLI combines the largest database of genomic and phenotypic data with machine learning to drive discoveries to make healthcare more personal, predictive, and preventative. Health Nucleus, HLI's clinical research center, integrates whole genome sequencing analysis, advanced digital imaging, and innovative machine learning, along with curated personal health information to detect early signals of major diseases such as cancer, metabolic, cardiovascular, and neurological in their earliest stages when they are most treatable. We do this in a state-of-the-art, spa-like facility that is unlike any other healthcare setting. This unprecedented quantitative assessment results in more than 150 gigabytes of data fully integrated into a personal health intelligence report, empowering individuals to learn more about themselves than ever before. Human Longevity Inc., your health intelligence partner.
David, come on out, pal.
Peter, how you doing?
Good.
Good to see you.
So David, HLI has a booth here, but what do you want? We're going to give a more detailed update tomorrow, and the numbers, we have been working on digitizing, dematerializing, and demonetizing HLI to make it available to more people, but what do you want to share with folks now?
Well, I think we've had two advancements over the last year. You know, as Peter said, we've had a number of clients who have come through who have had really life-changing diagnoses. And so the number one question that we've been getting is, can I come back again? Can I come back in a year? In some ways, for the folks who came through and got sort of a positive view of their health, they want to know, has anything changed in the last year that I need to be concerned about? So we're offering now a subscription model. So you come in for your baseline visit, and then every year thereafter, you'll get an update of your whole genome results, and you'll also get a whole body MRI, basic labs, and essentially making this a real part of your healthcare.
Yeah, we're going to be, what you'll see is a brand new pricing model announced, bringing the price where it had been at $25,000 down, and we'll be giving some of the numbers tomorrow.
Yep.
But it's the idea that you go once a year, and the amount of time has now been reduced to under 3 hours in the experience. So, for example, I went, and in the imaging, I found an enlarged aortic root. It means my aorta was enlarged. The question is that congenital? Is it changing? So my ability to go every year now. And the notion is you go for 3 hours once a year to make sure that there is nothing going on. The idea is, can you catch any kind of disease at stage 0 or stage 1, any development? And it's the sort of the translational over time look in your body which helps you avoid dying from something stupid. That's what I would say.
You know, we just heard from the Oura Ring folks, which I fully endorse. But it's interesting because we spend 1/3 of our day or 1/3 of our 24 hours in sleep. But you ask yourself, how many of you, we spend 24 hours a day with our body, 24 hours a day with the DNA that's been given us, and how many of us have really investigated that? And the answer is probably very few. So we fully endorse whole genome sequencing, whole body MRI, and a number of the other deep quantitative phenotypic testing that we do.
So tomorrow we'll go to the booth, check it out. We have an amazing staff there. But tomorrow we'll share the data and some recent discoveries and new capabilities that you've come up with. Yes, are you going to be able to share that tomorrow?
I will.
Good. Fantastic. And then the brand new updated as the prices are coming down to make it available. And on Tuesday, an amazing special renewal offer that you'll want to all hear. David, thank you, pal.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. All right. We're almost to our close here. I'm getting hungry. And so for that reason, I would like to bring up onto stage. Are we going to show a video first? Let's roll video for Just and bring on the chief chef, Ben Roche of Just.
Blackbird is a technology platform that translates raw material in the form of plants into data that fuels the discovery of food technologies that can really change the way that all of us eat.
The first step is to go out into the world and identify the different plants that we might want to use, bring them in, and build this plant library that is incredibly diverse.
That's where the robots comes in. By using automation, we're able to speed up this process 5 to 6 times higher than what we have before. It's almost impossible to look at the data and say, here's a pattern, here's the answer. So we have to come up with algorithm to rank the materials and give downstream experiments a recommendation. In this way, we're using data to increase the probability of discoveries.
Please welcome onto the stage the chef from Just, Ben Roche. Ben.
Peter, hello, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So Just, you guys know Just Mayo and a whole series of food products that you have developed.
Ooh, sir, we got a fiery one here. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're going to be cooking what here?
So this is our newest product. This hasn't officially launched yet. We've released it in one restaurant in San Francisco, and we're launching in a couple days in Hong Kong. This is our Just Scramble. So it's essentially a liquid egg made from plants.
Amazing. No cholesterol?
No cholesterol, exactly.
And vegan?
Vegan. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to cook while we talk because I don't have much time, but let's do it.
I think I'm going to get a snack here.
You are definitely going to get a snack. And oh, go ahead.
I mean, you guys, what Just has done is gone out and analyzed thousands, tens of thousands of molecules from plants around the world to determine which of those could be replacing, traditional cooking products.
Everything, yeah. So how do we make a more sustainable food system for the future? One huge way to do that is looking at plants, unlocking new potential that we've never used before. This plant is made from a mung bean. Mung beans people have been eating for literally thousands of years. How do you make something new and innovative out of that? So you saw the video through our robotic system, through a number of different ways that we do that. We're finding new uses for these really age-old plants, just thinking differently about them.
Is it heating?
It is. It's a little bit slower than I was expecting.
Okay.
I think that's
no
the
problem.
rumbling.
Yeah, we need a new technology for heating.
These things happen all the time. This is why you never cook on stage.
Yeah.
But here we go.
Are you going to be serving this a little bit?
I am. Yeah. We have a booth set up outside, so you can watch me do this outside, and then try a taste for yourself. If you're watching me do this, and you can watch me do it outside. Part of the challenge of making a product like this is that we're not just making like a food product that you take out of a box and eat. We're making almost an experience. That's how we think about it. This has to feel, and it has to have the visually and texturally and the mouthfeel of a real egg, like you're cooking with a real egg. So that has been like a real challenge. How do you take a mung bean protein and turn it into something that behaves like the world's perfect food, the chicken egg? It's not as easy as you'd think.
I didn't think it was easy in the first place. So
it's even harder than that.
So can you use this in a cooking recipe?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we launched with a small restaurant in San Francisco, and we basically just gave them the product and said, here you go. And so they've been using it on their menu. We gave it to cooks that they know nothing about robotics. They know nothing about what we're doing as a company, and they put it into their system, one for one, just plug and play. And they've been selling it, and people have been ordering it, and it has really great success so far.
Where were you before you joined the team at Just?
So I come from the restaurant world, working in different Michelin star restaurants around Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and found my way into this company making, essentially mayo and cookies and selling them at Walmart. You never expect to be doing something like this with your life, but what I realized is that my reach as a chef in a restaurant was like maybe 50 to 100 people a night. And maybe they remember that experience for 10 years. And they're like, wow, that was really great. But it doesn't do anything to make their lives better. So I realized that
Awesome.
by working with a company like this, I can actually reach everyone in the world and do something to improve the quality of their life. Is it eggy?
It's fantastic.
Great.
There's more, please.
Yeah, I brought one more chip.
I'll take the rest.
Here, let me load you up.
Thank you.
You've been up
Appreciate
here
that.
for a while. You're probably a little bit hungry.
Starving, yeah. So when does this become available?
So we're working with strategic partners right now. Like I said, one restaurant so far in San Francisco. We're going to expand that to different restaurants. Launching in Hong Kong in about 48 hours with another group.
When can we buy this in the store?
Hopefully, and this is TBD, hopefully by the end of the year or earlier next year.
And because I know you guys, can I get some early?
No, of course.
Okay. It really is amazing. Please taste it. And talk about reinventing food. And I know the team at Just is not only about healthier food, but it's more sustainable food.
Exactly.
And it's about how do we change the entire food ecosystem to make food that is healthy, cheaper, more available. The whole work that you're doing in Power Porridge right now, how do we feed the world in a way that tastes better and is better for you? And this tastes amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a lot, Peter.
Pleasure. So, I'd like to bring Bree back on stage if you could. Bree, you kicked us off, and I hope you guys have enjoyed these companies. Please go play with them during dinner tonight, reception, tomorrow at lunch, Tuesday at lunch.
So I just have a few quick thank yous
Yeah.
that I want to give out. First and foremost, to tech guys who get marketing. They have a booth in the demo hall, and you'll be able to talk to them about help with your moonshots.
This is so good.
Also, SoftBank. So SoftBank, you've seen these Pepper robots outside. They created this wonderful customized experience for A360. So you want to give them a big shout out. You can go interact with Pepper. I've seen some of you taking selfies with Pepper. You can ask Pepper how to get around, information about our sessions, breakfasts. Anytime you're lost, give Pepper a try. Puzzle Box. So this is a really fun one. I know some of you had a chance to experience it, but we have EEG-controlled drones, thanks to the folks at Puzzle Box and Steve. So during the break, you're going to be able to test your concentration, and if you put on this headset and you concentrate well, the drone will take flight. So that's a fun thing to see where you're at. And we have the folks from the Draw Shop who are creating these beautiful whiteboard animations on Monday and Tuesday. We want to give a big thank you to them. And lastly, Dry Farm Wines, who have sponsored our reception. That's going to kick off just in a little bit. And this is a biodynamic, organic, lab-tested wine that allegedly won't make you as hungover. So be sure to taste those.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Another wardrobe change. I've got my, can I get a camera? These from Mike Koenig. Thank you, Mike, for my awesome shoes. I'm told if I click them 3 times, I can start levitating. I wish I could do the moonwalk. All right. Can I get my clicker back, Bree? I'm powerless without it. Thank you. I've had a number of you ask about Bold Capital Partners and what is it, how do you get involved? Let me ask Timur Butrusgali, who's the managing partner, to step on out with us. Timur, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We have a number of BCP LPs here. We have a lunch, LP lunch every year during the Monday of A360.
Right.
And if you're interested in learning more, Timur, I'm just introduce Timur properly. Timur was the head of venture capital at Time Warner Ventures. He helped set up Saudi Aramco's venture capital fund. He and Neil started Monitor Ventures, and it was about 2.5 years ago when Max Bricklin...
Even longer.
Is it longer? Wow.
Time flies.
How long has it been?
It's been nearly 4 years.
Wow. Okay, well, we started a conversation. SU was looking at starting a venture fund. Max had me starting looking at a venture fund. Neil and Timur and Emilio were looking at creating a venture fund, and we actually brought together. So SU is one of the partners. The SU faculty is part of BCP. I make all my venture investments into AI, robotics, 3D printing. A lot of these companies you saw through BCP, and Timur is the yin to my yang. Is that a fair enough saying?
Yeah, I'll take that.
You're the sort of my counterbalance on the optimism, the realism, and the due diligence that follows. So tonight at...
So some slight change.
Okay.
First of all, if anyone's interested, you can use the messaging to let Max. It's the only Max with 2 X's. So if you search for that, just text
M-A-X-X, yeah.
Yeah, M-A-X, thank you.
And instead of X, M-A, anyway.
Whatever.
Okay.
So just text him if you're interested in knowing more about BCP. Then what we're going to do is in the room on my left, your right, where there is an exit sign, rather than this evening, because I think it was going to be a bit late, we'll on Tuesday, the 2nd hour of the lunch, we'll have an informal presentation for anyone who's interested to know more. Then myself, Max, Emilio, Neil are around the whole time. Just grab us. More than happy to chat. And there are, by the way, 4 or 5 of our portfolio companies here. I encourage you to go and take a look at them. You've seen, obviously, Aura already. Ospian.
Yeah, they've seen all of them this afternoon.
Oh, they've seen all of them? Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, Timur. Thank you,
all
Al.
right. Thank you.
All right. Let's, if we get the slides up on stage, let's talk about what's going on tomorrow, and then we'll go to reception. So tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we've got 3 sunrise sessions. So let me tell you what they are and where they are. So tomorrow morning, if you're interested in manufacturing, if you're interested in 3D printing, if you're interested in what you've seen today, you're going to join Avi and Maurizio and Amit to talk about their 3 companies and what they're up to. I'll show you that. It's one of the sunrise breakfasts you can choose from. The second sunrise breakfast is on robotics. Join Dean Kamen and Scott Hassan and Brian Schulman from SoftBank to talk about what's going on in the robotics world. This is from 7 to 8. Food will be served there, so it's your chance to eat before we begin the program, for you a chance to ask questions. It's more of a Q&A than presentation. And then the third is going to be on biohacking. So join Naveen Jain and Dave Asprey on looking at Viome and Bulletproof. So here are the rooms, and this information should all be in your apps as well. But we'll have plenty of people, including Pepper Robots, to show you around tomorrow morning. Just starts at 7, breakfast there. And then tomorrow we have 3 sessions. We're going to be opening with our Convergence Catalyzer. Tomorrow it's about the convergence of energy and robotics and material sciences. Then we're going to go into an epic conversation on blockchain and cryptocurrency and close with the most important thing, your health. How do we extend your healthy lifespan 30+ years, right? Ray Kurzweil talked about it last year. He'll be here this year, talk about it again. Longevity escape velocity. His estimate that we're only about 12 years away from reaching that moment in time where for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for more than a year. How's that going to change our world? What we're going to see, what we're going to be able to do. So we're going to the reception now. There's an amazing A360 sculpture. Thank you, Mike, for that. We have more music by Kiev, an amazing violinist. And please go explore the Tech Hub exploration. The Bold Capital briefing will be Tuesday at lunch. Thank you. Enjoy. Go out there. I'll look and see you out there soon. Bye, guys.
What is up, everybody? Welcome backstage at Abundance 360. I hope you guys have been having as much fun watching the main stage as I have. That last segment blew me away. I was taking crazy notes. I was on fire. And just before we went live, they came back and told us that people were going just as berserk as I was in the comment section. So we've got a lot of very cool questions. I think people really tapped into the humanity of it.
Yeah.
Getting Tony out there talking, you can really hear the passion in him saying this is a problem that has to be solved. And I really agree. But we've got a bunch of questions. Let's dive right in. The first one is from John. How many companies building AI, robotics, and machine learning will have to pay a UBI tax? And how do we make sure it's done fairly?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, John. So one of the proposals that I think Jeff Bezos put out is we should tax the robots, right? So as we start bringing autonomous cars online and robot workers and robot surgeons, maybe there's an extra taxation on those robots that then turns around and becomes a UBI. I like the idea of flipping the model and making people owners of the robots, and they're getting part of the robot's revenue versus filtering it through the government and having it coming back to me. But we're going to have to figure this out in some way, shape, or form. And the biggest question, and it was one of the conversations that we had out there, is do we depend on the government to figure this out, or is there something else that happens? Because as Tony also said, you know, the contract of Detroit, which Natalie referred to, only was brought to bear after there was violence and bloodshed. And do we need to get there? And unfortunately, for a lot of times, the answer is yes. We have to go down to the lowest lows before we actually bounce off and come up with a solution.
Yeah. I had never heard your proposal before. I actually thought it was really interesting, especially if you think of the UBI, and somebody posing the question said something like this. But if you essentially said the UBI is your investment fund, and just thinking about, okay, a lot of people talking about how the middle class is disappearing, could we turn them back into a thriving middle class by giving them these dollars that are meant to be spent investing into the robotics that are replacing them, treat them to think, or teach them to think like entrepreneurs? And then, because what I like is you re-get a class of people where if you do better, invest more intelligently, do more studying, you can turn the same amount of money into a bigger return.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
It is. And we have to figure this out. So one of the things that we want to have as a conversation inside the abundance community is, what are the ideas? What are the solutions? Because at the end of the day, when the shit hits the fan, we need to have a sort of the best proposed solution ready to go quickly. And rather than start the debate then. The debate's started. It's now. I just want to get my cool shoes in the video shot here.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm super stoked that you're doing such a big gathering of people to talk about this next year, bringing in unions and
so
things.
we wanted to do it this year, and the schedule was such that Tony's program was taking place in Florida, and so we've cleared it so that A360 next year will be a week from now. And Tony's committed, put on a schedule to be here. But he's gone further than that. He said he wants to bring the living presidents here and heads of unions and really blow it out into a conversation that we have the world listening to, right? Really have news outlets, have anyone who wants to sign up come in and be part of that conversation and get the visibility out there. And anyway, it deserves it. Because, you know, I'm Mr. Optimist, but when I think about the challenges in the near term, this is one I'm concerned about.
What I love about that is when you and I first met, you said that your MTP was really to help people transition to see the future as something beautiful. And you and A360 being the center sort of catalyst of that discussion before it turns to violence, I think is really on point.
Thank you, pal.
All right, next question. This one comes from Mark. What kind of uprising are we going to get when 50% of the workforce is unemployed? I'm worried about the emotional reaction to this transition.
Yeah, Mark, that's the big point. I fully agree with you. It's not the logic, right? So I've talked about this a lot. We're digitizing everything, which leads to its dematerialization, demonetization, and democratization. And I can paint a future for you in which everything becomes effectively cheap, right? Where do we spend our money today? We spend it on cars, we spend it on education and healthcare and houses, and all that stuff is going to eventually go towards near zero, right? Electricity at 4 or 5 cents, 7 cents a kilowatt hour here in California on my solar panels eventually will be down at sub 1% within the next 10 years. And my autonomous electric cars, both electric and autonomy, both required, will bring your price of transportation down 5 to 10 times cheaper. Healthcare and education should both go to effectively zero, the cost of electricity and AI. Okay, so stuff becomes cheaper. It's not about living. It's about the emotional experience of what do I do? What's the meaning of my life? And so that's the conversation. And if we need solutions that address that part, and that's the biggest concern that worries me. And ultimately, if my dad was a bricklayer and my dad's dad was a bricklayer, but I own an army of bricklaying machines, I can probably relate to that.
For sure, and just the whole general sense of finding meaning, I think it's so important that you're bringing that together, and even looking at this second half, which for me, this was awesome. Like, of all the events that I've done with you, which have been universally incredible, something about the second half of today, where the collision of technology and rapid exponential change met with humanity in what felt like a very intentional way, and bringing the food into it and what's going on there, and just thinking about human longevity from a, at the cellular level, performance, you are what you eat kind of way, and in the same breath be talking about we have to solve this emotional crisis that's coming. I was really moved by that.
Thank you.
Next question from Dean: how can an education system possibly adapt to this pace of change? We're going to have a lot of low-skilled workers with nowhere to go.
Dean, that is a challenge, and part of this is we humans only change at a certain rate. And how do we upskill ourselves rapidly? How do we, the whole concept of you need 10,000 hours to become proficient at something. And so if you have been really great at whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden that job is gone, how do you upskill rapidly to something else? Here's one of the challenges. We tend to look at the problems really far in the future, right? That our brains over the last million+ years have become extraordinarily good and optimized at seeing future problems, and we accelerate those problems to today. We say, holy shit, that problem is happening. But what we forget is the problem is actually some number of years away. It could be a couple years, it could be 10, 20 years. And the realization is that during the time as that gap closes, we have so many breakthroughs in innovation that allow us to solve it. So, for example, one of the things we're not talking about is what Ray Kurzweil predicts that will happen in, under 20 years, 18 years from now, that we're going to have AI plug into your brain. So learning skills and re-engineering the educational system is going to be a moot point when I can just think and know, or I can increase my intelligence a million billion-fold. So is that going to be the solution? Is it going to be AI software shells? I think about this a lot. I've been thinking about this for God, 15, 20 years now. We're all going to have a version of Jarvis, an AI software shell, where all you have to be clear about is your desire, your intentionality. You want to say, I want this to happen, and you don't need to know how it happens, but an AI will become your interface to that world. It's going from mind to materialization, if you want to hop in the cockpit of an F-16 and fly it. I just need to know I want to go over to that runway and take off, and it will help me. So there's going to be this interface of an AI to all these other technologies out there.
Yeah, I was really interested to hear what they're doing at Rival Theory.
Yeah, amazing,
the fact that they already think that, and so when you don't understand something, as long as you can follow the logic, like there's something there, and their logic of people that gain mastery in something, they've codified their life, they're using heuristics. So if they're already using things that we can pass on to a machine, like this may be much easier to do than we think. And the fact that they're already doing it with Tony Robbins is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I want to definitely create my Rival Theory version I can deploy to the digital community.
You may be more than anyone else.
And you as well.
Well, the funny thing is I'm actually working on it, but I didn't know Rival Theory existed, so I've been working with a developer around Alexa to do that, to turn me into Alexa, so that you could ask me a question I can answer on virtually any topic that I have expertise in.
There's a question up there from James I think we might have missed. Or
all right, this one is, can AI actually help society figure out the optimal UBI for each citizen based on geographic, cost of living, and psychographic factors? How can we partner with AI to come up with a solution for mass unemployment?
So we heard that conversation a little bit, James, with Tony bringing it up and a few others that can AI be a tool to help us in that fashion? And of course, UBI is not the same for everybody, right? One of the things that's important to realize is I compare myself to my neighbor, right? And so if my neighbor is doing slightly better than I feel, so it's all relative in that regard. So I think it's going to be, there's not one size fits all solution here.
Hear that. All right, the last question we have is from Grace. Peter, what are 3 solutions outside of UBI that we can use to help solve the mass automation of jobs?
Wow. So, Grace, I don't know. I'm looking for the answers. I think the challenge is that the automation of jobs is, I think, irreversible and accelerating. What does that mean? It means that if I'm an employer, or if I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a CEO, and I can get a job done faster, cheaper, and better by an AI or a robot, I would be irresponsible to my shareholders if I didn't do that. Put differently, the company that says, hey, we're humanitarian, we only employ humans, goes out of business much faster than the company that says, hey, we're using the best AIs around. And the benefit, obviously, to the consumer is that the company using the best AI and robots is providing a cheaper product. So Amazon, with Amazon Go, which is just getting started right now this week, going out of beta into full application. Jeff's goal when he bought Whole Foods? Whole Foods, thank you, is to reduce the cost of Whole Foods food by 40%. Was a stated goal. So you get cheaper by using automation and by re-engineering the entire supply chain. And it's like using bricklaying robots to build homes. It's going to half your labor on a house is half your cost on a house is labor. So Grace, I don't know the 3 solutions. I'm hoping that the community will spark a conversation that we can bring forward solutions because I think. And one other point, I think it's entrepreneurs that are going to create the solutions. So remember, the world's biggest problems, the world's biggest business opportunities. I want to become a billionaire, help 1 billion people. So what are ideas that you could help commercialize?
Yeah, and guys, there's roughly 3,000 of you out there right now engaged with this content. So if any of you have ideas, now would be the time to drop those into the comments fields. We're going to be going through all of that, be presented to Peter at the end. Right now, we're pulling out select stuff, but ultimately, he is going to get a chance to go through all of this. So it's very possible that the next brilliant idea comes from there. It could be the kickoff point for the next A360.
And, if you're a YPO member, if you're a coach member, a Platinum Partner member, and you are running a business, you're going to have to deal with this, right? You have to deal with the fact that if your competition is using robots and AI and you're not, how do you compete? And then the other question is, how do you, deal with looking yourself in the mirror and letting half your staff go? Because those are the predictions. I had that conversation with Jeff Immelt when he was running GE and the head of HR saying 350,000 employees, half gone. What do you do? How are you thinking about this? By the way, how cool was that HireView AI to help you hire humans, right?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, somebody that has seen a lot of people come through an interviewing system. Any improvements there are just massive in their impact.
Yeah. So tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, that's the crack of noon, 11:30 for those of you on the East Coast in New York. You can have a relaxing morning. An amazing opening Convergence Catalyzer. So proud of who we have. So we've got Ramez Nam. Ramez is a rock star in energy. He held energy at Singular University, past leader at Microsoft. Brilliant. You do not want to miss his thesis on energy. We'll show you where it is and where it's going over the next 2 to 20 years, changing the world. Dean Kamen is going to be talking about robotics. Dean is one of the most extraordinary, celebrated roboticists in the world. And then finally, something that I want to hopefully have you appreciate is one of the underlying engines of all of this innovation is material sciences. The materials that allow us to create better sensors, motors, materials, foods, clothing, all of this is material sciences, our ability to play with atoms and molecules. And so the CTO of Applied Materials, his first name is Om, amazing, gentle giant, and he'll be here to talk about breakthroughs in material sciences. And then we're going to play jazz. We're talking about how these three fields come together. And my goal is unfair advantages. My goal is for you to see some kind of an idea for your next company, your next startup. And then we're going to bring them backstage here so you guys can do one-on-one questions with them as well. Actually, you're going to do one-on-one questions with them.
Yeah, but taking your guys' questions. So my hope is that all I'm doing is essentially asking what you guys want to know, and that's really the idea here, to add as much value to you guys as possible. So drop in those questions. We are pulling them out, and we'll be doing it all day tomorrow.
Thank you all. Thank you for spending the time with us. And around the world, my love and appreciation to the Abundance Digital family. And Tom, thank you so much, pal.
You got it, man. Thank you. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Sleep well.